Hey, Cleveland, this is Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you're listening to Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix at AOL.com. That's thesportsfix at AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Off and running, here we go, baby. Click that switch and away we go. The Sports Fix on the air. Hump Day edition of the Sports Fix. More special than usual today is I'm fired up. I'm on the, I don't know what you'd call this. I told you guys about this monster. Thank you, Pilot Flying J. This monster. It's called the Road Warrior Extreme. This cup, literally the bottom of it's made, I think, out of a truck tire. It's rubberized, so you can't lose this thing while you're driving. This coffee thing. So I think it's, I don't know how many cups, but it's probably the equivalent of over a pot each time you go at it. Anyways, I'm on my second one of these already. Another one coming. Last night I was calling the game at East Lake North over there on WINT. And the police officer was stationed over by the broadcast booth, and he goes, "Hey, man, what's in that cup?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That can't be coffee." I said, "Oh, yeah, it is." He just started laughing, and I said, "Oh, no, bro." I said, "This is the third one of these today." I said, "I've already worked all day, done the show, did my office work, came out here. Now I'm going to broadcast the game." Yeah, but anyways, they really could just make my life simpler and just figure out how to put one of those IV packs together for me. I'd be good to go. But fired up today, Hump Day edition of the Sports Fix. In just a few moments, next segment of the show here, introduce the show. We'll get things rolling. Ernest Byner, of course, legendary here in Cleveland Browns history and in the NFL. Beyond that, outside of what he's done, Ernest Byner, just one of the greats in Browns history, and I'll go so far as to say one of the great running backs in NFL history as well. A great story, pre-career, post-career, all of that. He's got a new book out, Everybody Fumbles. We're going to talk to the man himself here. First time I've had a chance to have Ernest Byner here on the show with us. Just about 10 minutes from now, Ernest is going to join us. Cannot wait to have this conversation with you guys. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, he's with us as always on Wednesdays. He's going to follow that up as well. We've got a lot to get into here. There's news breaking as the show starts. Let's rock and roll. I'll kind of set the stage. There's a few things that I'm kind of glad Ernest is joining us right off the bat, because there's the evolving Danny Salazar situation, which we'll talk about in just a second, and I'd really like a little more time to pass and see if perhaps some more clarity begins to come out on that, perhaps by the time we talk to Dan Wismar. But there's a situation involved there. Just heard from the Indians, so there is definitely some smoke to this situation. A lot going on. We're going to get into that with Dan Wismar. We got Buckeyes and Vikings hoops tonight. All kinds of stuff to get into. Let's rock and roll. You guys ready? I am more than ready. Welcome into the Sports Fix, you guys, whether you're here for the first time or you're here each and every weekday at noon, live across the Sports Fix radio network. I am your host, the big daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers here, as we are each and every weekday doing the thing, you guys, whether you're listening live on TuneIn, TuneIn's radio app worldwide, Perhaps you're enjoying the show live on Spreaker and Mixlr or their respective digital and mobile applications and feeds. Perhaps you stream us each and every day right off the home base, thesportsfix.net. No matter what you do, and if you don't, hey, bookmark that, thesportsfix.net. No matter what you do and how you're doing it, thank you for doing it with us live. That's what she said, I think. And as well, thank you to each. I can never let that's what she said slip. I'm one of those guys. Anyways, thank you as well, all of you listening on digital delay 24/7 on such sites worldwide. Thousands of you on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and SoundCloud and all of the podcast and download and feed and subscribe and all the different formats and ways and all that stuff. Technological guru stuff that you guys do. Thank you so much for doing it with us here, like I say, each and every day, and be a part of the show. Whether it's by phone, whether it's by fax, whether it's carrier pigeon, we've got all kinds of ways available for you to be a part of this. Yeah, you guys in the chat room are already bringing up all these stories. Today is a bad day for athletes in the news. There's guys getting popped all over. I just saw Randall from the Cowboys, DeQuell. We're going to get into that. DeQuell Jackson's got himself into some stuff. Fun stuff all over for pro athletes here, not just today, but in the last few days. Man, what is going on this morning? Is there a full moon out there or something? But we'll get into all of that here. Anyways, be a part of it, as we say, live. Call the show, 216-539-7535. Can't call live, listening at 3 o'clock in the morning, middle of the night, halfway around the world in another time zone, you can still call. Leave your message 24 hours a day. We'll play the best ones on the show live when we get the opportunity. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Can't get through? Don't want to call? Hey, some people, I'm telling you, there are some people that go, J-Rocc Daddy, I hear you every day say, pick up the phone and give me a call. I just prefer to give my take on Facebook and have you read it. And that's cool. I just love to hear it, different voices. I get tired of hearing my voice sometimes, man. I love to hear from you guys. But hey, if you're one of those cats, that is all good. Use the social media. That's what it's there for. Nearly 23,000 of you guys already do on Facebook, facebook.com/thesportsfix. On Twitter, tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. And of course, you can always email us, thesportsfix@aol.com. And as I said, Danny Salazar, let me start there. And again, we'll set the stage here. I'd really like to let this next segment, we got Ernest coming on the show. Dan Wismar is going to come up. Dan, always very responsible with things. Maybe we'll see what else has come out. But in the early hours this morning, Paul Hoynes, actually, from the Plain Dealer. And I got to say, a little bit irresponsible. I gotta say that about the way the initial reporting of this came out. Hoynes put out a tweet this morning initially saying that Indians pitcher Danny Salazar and Roberto Perez were being investigated on a possible sexual assault complaint, which took place. The date has been tracked down, January 23rd, which would be Tribe Fest weekend there, early morning, January 23rd. A few moments later, Paul Hoynes corrected in a new tweet and said Perez is not being investigated. It is solely Danny Salazar. I really don't like, and then he didn't delete the initial tweet. I don't like that because that's how, we talked about it. Remember Colin Kaepernick and all of that? That quick social media, that's the bad thing about this. There's good parts of it with how instantly things break. There's bad things about it too, because I don't know anything. None of us know anything about this. But point being is now, when you Google search 10 years from now, there will be a cross-link between the name Roberto Perez and the term sexual assault. If he is an innocent bystander in this and his name was brought up, that's terrible. That follows you forever on a digital trail. That's all I'm saying is quick. But, anyways, Hoynes quickly followed up on that. Some investigation with the police department. They're not giving any details. They're simply making a statement that they are investigating a sexual assault complaint against Danny Salazar. Now, initially, I wasn't going to talk about this at all because initially I could get no information, and you're really just speculating on speculation, and that's a scary thing to do. But the Indians have, to me, added some credibility to this. Just before we went on the air, Curtis Dansberg sent out a statement to us, and it's a very simple statement. The Indians are aware of the investigation involving Danny Salazar. This came from Chris Antonetti. Since this potentially could become a legal matter, we cannot have any additional comment at this time. To me, obviously, that verifies at least the facts of what we know so far, which is there definitely is something being investigated here, and the Indians are aware of it, because otherwise they would have waited a little bit longer to make a statement as well. So that's where we sit with that. And as I said, I really like to wait a little bit here. When we get Dan on later on in the show, we'll revisit this. We'll see what else is going on. There's so much curiosity, and everybody's looking for the first shred. So, if you speculate on anything, somebody could grab it and run with it, and next thing you know, more wild stories are being thrown out there. So we'll see what's going on with that. We're definitely going to circle back around to that, but definitely not what Indians fan here. The Indians are sending out emails this morning, truck packing day and all of that coming. This is not anything that anybody wanted to hear, and it's definitely not one of those innocuous athlete things sometimes that get blown out of proportion. This could be a very, very serious situation, or could not be, and that's why we've got to see here as more, and I have no doubt it'll come out here probably as we're rolling on. So let's see what's happening there. We're going to get into that. Something else quickly that I want to mention before we take a break, we get Ernest Byner here on the show. I don't know if you guys heard, but it's a story here, not blown up here. It's not anything you're going to hear leading off the headlines or anywhere, but Charlie Sifford, I don't know if you guys know who he is, 92 years old, passed away here just outside of Cleveland in Shaker Heights, where he's lived for quite some time. But Sifford is in a lot of circles known as the Jackie Robinson of the PGA. He was the man who really broke down the racial barriers of the PGA, and went through, man, I'll tell you what, I've read a couple of, Bill Livingston's done some good pieces on him over the years back in the day, especially in the early advent of Tiger Woods' career, and making some comparisons there, but very similar, and some even nastier stories than the stuff that you hear about Jackie Robinson, stuff that you hear that in those time periods. And this is a man that, again, and think about that. I mean, think about how long it took, for some of these golf courses to get integrated. I mean, we're talking into the modern era, and this is a man that was out there in the heart of the era where that was unacceptable, and broke down a lot of barriers, given the credit for being one of the true pioneers, and like I said, breaking down the racial barriers there of the PGA, opening the door for so many, and just some great stories. I'll tell you that I've read too, in looking at some of the eulogies here, but just something that, how I am, guys. There's stuff where I go, I don't know if anybody else is going to talk about this or bring this up, man, but I definitely like to bring awareness to stuff like that, and that's a guy who you wish, and obviously I, in hindsight, wish you could sit down and get to just kick the tires on all the stories, and just sit back and keep your mouth shut and listen to some of the experiences and stories of what a guy went through to do that. I mean, people don't understand, and I say this a lot, we talk about unions. We talk about that kind of stuff a lot because we're talking about athletes, and we always argue about what's really a union and what's a group of collective bargainers or whatnot. And, but when you talk about the sacrifices that somebody makes, you know what I mean? When you talk about that, and, like I say with the unions, when you talk and you say, usually it's the ones that fight for the next generation. They suffer through it all, and they don't reap the benefits. It's the next generation that does, and a lot of times the next generation doesn't appreciate just truly what the one before had to go through to get all of those things. You see that a lot there. Like I say, when one group fights for better rights and better, just like the older, hey man, you could talk to the older football players and say, man, these guys today are living in the life because of the work that we put in. Same thing there, man. And on a whole different level, though, because we're not just talking about money. We're not just talking about social status. We're talking about true social status, equality, and fighting through some nasty situations and rising above and truly integrating a game. And again, to me, look at the stodginess of golf. That's another level of integration there on top of the era and the way everything was. So I definitely wanted to mention that, and passed away right outside, like I said, Northeast Ohio here where he's lived. So definitely wanted to bring some attention to that. Let's get to the break. Let's get things rolling. As we said, we got a whole lot to get into later, but coming up next, Ernest Byner. Very proud, honored to have him for the first time here on the Sports Fix. I know you guys are excited. I've had people sending me messages here. So, Jerry, get rolling, man. So let's do that. Coming up next, Browns great, I say legendary Browns running back Ernest Byner joins us next here on the Sports Fix. We'll talk about his career. We'll talk I don't think I even need to ask him as a running back what he thought about the end of the Super Bowl. But we'll talk about all that stuff, Everybody Fumbles, and more. Ernest Byner joins us next when we come back live right here on the Sports Fix. Let's get this thing rolling, baby. We'll be right back.
The Sports Fix, the show that asks the question,
what you talking about, Will? What you talking about, Will? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Will? What you talking about? What you talking about, Will? What you talking about? What you talking about, Will?
We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, live here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you here, getting ready to get it on. My man, Ernest Byner, the legendary, great running back, not just in Browns history, but beyond that in NFL and what he's done off the field. So much the accolades go on here. Ernest Byner, joins us next here on the Sports Fix. You guys, phones aren't open, but you can, of course, always leave your take on our social media, Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix, CLE, and email us thesportsfix@AOL.com. And, of course, tweet us any questions you may have as this conversation rolls on. I'll be glad to ask Ernest for you. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix, CLE. You hear it in the background, that raised on the Cleveland Browns. That was that error right there for sure. Let's do it. You guys ready? Let's rock and roll. Going to the hotline now, welcoming first time in all these years. First time. I love it every time I get the first chance to talk with somebody. Earnest Byner, the great Ernest Byner, joins us next here on the hotline. Ernest, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for joining us here, of course. Very glad to have you, my man.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And, man, we're rocking and rolling. Before we even get into anything about you, I think you heard me set it up before we went to the break. I have no doubt what you're going to say as a running back and all of it. But Super Bowl this past weekend, man, what were your thoughts as you watched the final sequence of things go down there for Seattle?
I didn't watch the game.
Oh,
I was just kidding. I was just kidding.
I was going to say, man, I set myself up for that.
Well, first of all, I want to set this up because they did a fantastic job on with 32 seconds left in the first half of managing the clock, calling the right plays, getting the ball down there. He threw a ball to the sideline to get to like the 14 or 15-yard line. They had a penalty that moved them closer. They call a fade route to the short side of the field. I mean, they really managed that clock very well to get that touchdown just before the half. Fast forward to the last 2-minute drill that they had. I didn't sense that they managed that well, because they started that off with 3 timeouts. They ended up with 2, but they had to burn a couple of timeouts because they couldn't get a play off, and then there was one other timeout that they had to burn before they got to where the miracle catch happened. Marshawn runs the play. All of a sudden, you go into some type of panic. It was something that went amiss, other than just them just calling the pass play. After Marshawn ran the ball, they made a substitution. All of a sudden, clock was running. And matter of fact, I thought Bill Belichick was going to call timeout, tell you the truth, to try to save time. So I would have ran the ball just because it would have actually made, at least, first of all, would have given him an excellent chance of putting it in Beast Mode's hand, having him score the winning touchdown. But also, it would have took down more of the time. So if New England gets the ball back, they don't have that much time. So yeah, I would have definitely given it to Beast Mode for a couple of reasons. One, he probably is going to score because of what he just done in the play before. And if he doesn't score, time is running, but you still have two other, you can call timeout, and you still got the third and the fourth down to actually throw the ball and perhaps score at that rate.
Man, that was the answer I was looking for. I knew where you were going to be at with that, but I figured that would be a good way to break the ice. I love the way you break it down, too, man. I mean, I don't know how many people know. Of course, they know the career you had on the field, but a lot of times players disappear off the field, and unless they're in the headline for this reason or that reason, then people don't know what happens to them. And you've done a lot of coaching since the time you've come off the field up until just recently here. And so you definitely continue to use, obviously, that gift of football knowledge. You can hear it just as you break down that right there, man. The way you break it down.
It's a blessing, man. Thanks for noticing. It's definitely a blessing. I love the game. I love trying to help people understand the game. I love to help people play the game at a higher level. I actually, one of the things that I enjoy too is trying to help people go to a different level mentally. Both on the field and off. So it's a love affair that I definitely have.
I mean, that sounds exactly like the kind of attitude, seriously, and this is legit. This isn't me just, kissing up because you're here on the show. Although, for all fairness, I have to admit.
Kiss up, baby. I'll take it. It.
I have to admit, my childhood, which, of course, those are the ones that you hang to, man. The era that I grew up on was you guys. So, clearly there's going to be some bias in my in my talking here, but taking that head off of it, that attitude is what got you to the NFL. I mean, here you've always had that fighting for more and working so hard as one of the traits that got you through, coming from being a low draft pick here and working your way in through the NFL and just continuing to carve out the career that you did.
Yeah, it was definitely a blessing. My grandmother raised us in the church. One of the first things I can remember her saying to us is, "Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you." A sense of fairness, a sense of doing what's right because it is what's right, was put in me, and it was just a natural thing for me to work at and develop as I did. It was a blessing that was given to me, and the ability to see things from a coach's perspective and a teacher's perspective was a blessing early on in my life. My grandmother was actually a teacher. And that gene is a gene that's in my family. It got to me real heavily, and it's actually been passed on down to my daughters. To me, they have taken that up as well. So that gift is definitely there, man. I appreciate you noticing that.
And the flip side of being a teacher is, of course, you have the sponge. Like I understand that very much. I in my other line of work, I've done professional wrestling for the last 16 years, and I've trained guys through the years, guys that are on national TV now doing their thing. And so I know that pleasure of teaching somebody, watching them learn it and then apply it and then go out and succeed at it. And you're like, it's that pride. It's like your kids. It's the same kind of thing. It's like a different extension of children. But to teach, you also have to learn, because you know that you have to always be learning things so that you can teach correctly. So, and of course, that again is how you became good at what you did, because you soak up things like a sponge, and then you also turn and teach it back out. Yeah, and that's to me, that's the natural progression that we should go through. Is you learn, you experience, you learn, you teach, and then you continue to grow. And then I believe it's up to the individuals that you teach. Matter of fact, not up to them. It should be an obligation to them to do the same thing, because, in my opinion, our experiences are not just for us; it's for other people to actually be able to glean and to glean information, but also to sometimes you don't necessarily have to go through an experience to learn and grow from it. You can actually watch somebody, you can actually listen to somebody and learn. And then you can apply the principles to your life. So that was one of the blessings that I had, man. It was one of the other blessings that I had when I got to Cleveland, was that Mike Pruitt, Boyce Green, Dino Hall, Charles White, all took me under their wings and were actually teaching me. So, to me, it was just a gift to be able to give back to the others that came with me, Kevin Mack, Herman Fontenot, Bernie, Langhorne, all of these guys, to actually hold everybody accountable to that same level of accountability and love. Just for the reason that you love them. You want to hold these guys accountable. You want to see them do better. You want to see them get it and also go and use it, as I was able to be blessed to do as well. Man, Ernest, that's real, man. It's so refreshing compared to what you hear when you talk to guys. We do it so much that you get used to hearing just a similar line of thinking. And then I talk to somebody like you, and I'm like, man, I could do this all day long. You mentioned Herman. Herman Fontenot is just one of my favorite people in the world. He's such a good guy, man. And again, when I talk to him, it's so much like what I'm hearing from you about giving back and community and all of that, and knowing that you're blessed with gifts, and that it's your gift then to re-bestow that on the other people. Right, absolutely. And I'm actually coming back up. I'm coming to Cleveland next week. Got a couple events up there,
And it'd be good to catch up with some of those guys. I'm going to be with K-Mac, catch up with Bernie. Hopefully we can get out and get dinner together, relax a little bit. Langhorne is still there. Dixon is still there. So Jackson and some of those guys, man, be able to get out and break bread. Hopefully, maybe even at Bernie's restaurant or something, man, go out there and relax and be able to, continue to build each other up. Because that's the thing that you miss is that camaraderie that you had as a teammate, and the natural love that you have for each other, man. So it's good to also get back with these guys, man, and kind of catch up, share a hug and a drink or something.
Absolutely. And you're throwing these names out here, and now guys are like, oh, now we're talking. We're talking about football. We're talking about the Browns. And, even before that, though, what point did you start to feel like, hey, football is something that I actually can pursue more than just as a sport? When did you start to go, hey, this may be my thing?
It was probably after my freshman year in college, because I actually, I went to college really to become a coach. Because early on in my life, and this is part of the book, is I felt like it was a destiny that was on me. The Spirit actually spoke to me and told me that I was going to be a coach. So that's why I went to college. So that was the main reason I went there. That was the main reason I did a lot of the things that I was doing, as a teammate in junior high and high school with the guys, helping guys out, patting guys on the back, encouraging them. But anyway, by the time when I got to East Carolina, I ended up beating out one of the starters that had been there, one of the seniors that was a starter, and ended up starting that year. He went on to become a professional football player, and then that it kind of struck me. One day at spring ball where you have the scouts come in. I'm sorry, that's my phone ringing in the background. But they had a kind of a tryout thing, and all the young guys were able to run for them and all that kind of stuff. And that's when it kind of struck me that I might have the opportunity to actually go out and play and be successful in the league.
Man, I'll tell you, and I hear you there too. You see that, you go, wait a minute. If he can, then I can there, and then again, you can see that dawning, and you're like, well, why can't I? And so, and that's part of that. Hey, let's go for more and continuing to push yourself, and you end up drafted by the Browns. Talk to me about that, because you started out. It was Sam was still the coach here at that time, and
right.
the first few years of your career is kind of the evolution of that team switching from the team that was the Cardiac Kids, that 1980 team that peaked there, and transitioning the roster into what would eventually become the team with Marty and you and Mac and Kozar and all of those guys that you just mentioned. So what was your induction into the NFL? You said all these guys took you under their wing and made it easier for you. What was your transition into the NFL and the Browns like?
Well, it was, first of all, after they drafted us. They flew everybody in, I think, the next day. And my welcome to Cleveland was getting off the plane to allow sleep in cold weather. So I was like, so this is the way it's going to be. Because I guess I slowly migrated up north. I went from high school to in Georgia to college at East Carolina, in North Carolina. So I'm kind of moving up, but I think that jump from North Carolina to Ohio was a bit shocking. So, and back then when we came in, if I remember correctly, we had a camp, and it was a mini camp. I don't know if it was like right that weekend or week after. I don't remember the specifics there, but I can remember being out there. The very first camp, and it just felt like I was at home. I guess I don't know. The only time I had a doubt about perhaps making the team was actually the last cut day in training camp. The night before, I had a little bit of fear come upon me, but then I was able to go to sleep. I was when your roommates start to get cut and you start to have that lonely feeling, like, oh man, I don't know. But after the last cut, man, I really felt like I was at home, and when Sam, then back up to the draft, and the last day of the draft, only thing I wanted to do was I wanted to be drafted for sure, because I was married, had a family, had a daughter. Her name is Samaria. She was my baby at that point, and I wanted to be drafted because I knew I would get money. I knew I would get a signing bonus. So it didn't matter where I was drafted, and I told my agent actually before the draft that all I want is a chance. I feel like if I get a chance in the league, I can make it. I don't know what made me say that. I have no idea. But that was one of some of the things that he brings up often about when I was sitting across from him in his desk in New York. And then being able to be drafted, man, and getting to Cleveland, getting a little money, then going through that process with the team that was there. Sam Reticulano was the first voice that I heard as a Brown. He called me. I actually ended up talking to Mr. Modell. I believe Ernest, of course, he was there at that point. And the development process was, it was on. Marty took over after the 8th game of the year. And this is kind of funny. I asked Mike Pruitt, I said, hey, man, what do we do? Because this, you've never been through anybody get fired during the middle of the year. And I asked Mike Pruitt, I said, what do we do? What's going to happen? He said, hey, man, we go to work. That's what we do. So we end up getting in. Hey, man, hey. We end up getting in, and actually after Marty got the job, he saw within me something that made him bring me into his office, sit down with him, and tell me that, hey, I was going to be his man. You're going to be the starter. I'm going to build this thing around you. So it was a blessing.
And that was, matter of fact, Jonathan Knight, one of the guys that is one of the on-air guys on the show with us here, he's done a ton of Browns books, and he's talked about that. And when Marty said, hey, man, you're my guy, let's go out here and get it done, I don't know if you know how good you can be, but I do. And Marty Schottenheimer really believed in you, and really that's when things went full steam ahead for you there, and you and Mac formed that combination. I joke, I said, man, last year the Browns couldn't get 5 guys to combine for 1,000 yards, let alone having 2 cats out there each getting 1,000. You know what I mean?
Right, I do. That's hopefully the process of development, as you know, and you mentioned this earlier, the process of development is continual. Even the coaches, they got, obviously changing with the coaching staff and all that kind of stuff. Pettin will get better. Hopefully they can forge something offensively. Because when you change offense, that's a different thing as well. But I think Pettin in his second year will be a better head coach, as especially I think with the mentality that he has. And I think Farmer will do a good job of getting talent up there. And if they're able to go ahead and hold those guys accountable and keep the growth process and the continual development going, I believe they'll do well.
Marty, looking back at your time, man, that was the key guy that really looked at you and pushed forward. What were your thoughts on him and his time here and that whole group? You've said, I've read some quotes from you about the fans and how nothing anywhere else was like what it was like here in Cleveland. That is truly one of the most memorable teams, that a couple-year run of all the Browns eras. There's a couple of them, and you are dead in the middle of that. Talk to me a little bit about some of that, what you remember, what that was like. You guys were rock stars there for a couple years on that run here in Cleveland for sure.
Yeah. Being able to have the team, buy into what a head coach is asking of you, I believe it was definitely critical. I bought in hook, line, and sinker. I always played with a sense of fairness and respect for the game, and was asked that from the people that I was able to influence. It was a blessing to actually be a part of that team, man. Because if you really look at that team, was really full of depth. The only thing we missed was the ability to outright just get to the quarterback. And even at times that showed up. Big Daddy Carl Harrison was able to, he came in from Philly later in his career and added some things to the mix. But that team was loaded with talent. They did a hell of a job of drafting and getting guys from the USFL. And bringing guys in, man, and you're talking about the strength of that team. Being able to go through the supplemental draft and get Bernie. Bernie lobbied to actually come to Cleveland and be a part of that, man. It was a special time for us, man. The ability to get in there and then stay consistent. That's one thing that people kind of don't understand. You have to go through some rough times sometimes to get to where you get a stable, consistent winner. It doesn't just happen right away. It's not something that can be cookie cut and just say, hey, we can do it here, do it there. It's something that has to continually be forced. And we were able to do that because we loved each other enough to hold each other accountable, but also to push each other to the next level. That competition on that team, within that team, when we were having individual drills, when we had pass rush against Clay Matthews and Chip Banks and Eddie Johnson, when we had those periods against each other, one-on-one route running, and when we went against each other, we really challenged each other. It really helped us to take our games to a different level, man. It was definitely a gift to be on that team.
I'll tell you what. Let me, on hindsight, this may be a question you could answer now with looking back, and this is something I'd love to know. You obviously went on. You did some time with Washington, won a Super Bowl there. So you've been on a team that finished the journey, and you were on those Browns teams that came oh so close. Looking back now, what's the difference? Like, how close, really, talent-wise, everything, the whole package, were those Browns teams compared to a team that you did see finish the job?
Hey, man, to tell you the truth, I mean, there's not a whole lot of – there wasn't a whole lot of difference in talent level. The spirit of the team was a little bit different, and what I mean by that, it was the team in Cleveland. It was a lot of men who held each other accountable. We enjoyed ourselves off the field. We partied, we hung out. But when it was time to work, we came in and grind. We were able to put aside, whatever we had done the night before, the evening before, and we also knew we had some parameters that we stayed within when we had our good times. But. And the team in Washington had a different base, a different foundation, which was more of a spiritual foundation. It was Christians, it was Joe Gibbs, it was we had each other over at each other's houses, just like we did in Cleveland. But when we were over at each other's houses in Washington, we were doing Bible study. We were cooking. We still food and libations were still involved, but it was on a different level. The difference in making it to the championship, all the way to the Super Bowl, to me, it's so many intricacies and so many layers that go into both winning and losing football games. There's so many small things, and I believe it's a bit more spiritual than we realize. All of that interconnectedness that has to happen within the team, coaches' decisions, players' decisions, all of the bounce of a ball, the game within the game, mistake by one lineman or a fumble like by me. All of those things, man, it's a lot of stuff that has to go into winning and losing a championship game, and with the ability that we for some reason, it didn't work out in Cleveland, but it did work out in Washington for me and to be involved with a team that went all the way to the thing. But that team in Cleveland had as much talent. And as a matter of fact, I thought if we would have won the game in Denver, we would have had a stronger, a stronger team that was more suited to actually play the Washington team. And as a matter of fact, that team that we were on the next year went to Washington to defeat them in Washington. So to me, it was you win, you lose, you're able to get over the hump at one point. No, not on this. To me, it's a bit more spiritual than we realized. But those teams were very well matched, in the talent wise, and also, how the guys held each other accountable on different levels. So it was a blessing to be on both of those teams.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. We're talking to the great Browns running back, Ernest Byner, and you mentioned the fumble. And, I mean, of course, everybody, that story's, been asked, I'm sure, more times than you'll ever care to answer again. But I do have to tell you just a funny story. I said, should I tell him or not? But everybody knows where they were. I was a young child. I remember sitting on my floor of my room in a fort made out of blankets. You get a bunch of friends together and you make your little hangout place, and we're watching the game. It was about 5 or 6 little kids, and all the parents were downstairs, and we were upstairs watching the game, and I remember bawling. I mean, it was like one of the first Cleveland moments that I had in sports, and I remember not understanding what had happened, and then I can think back and remember the roar and then the silence downstairs that came from a room of grown men that were rocking. And then some things you don't forget. But here I was at that time, a little boy, and I'm crying, and here I am now. We're talking and coming back to it. I said, you know what, I got to tell him. I'm sure he'd get a kick out of that. Yeah. But I can tell you. So that's what I mean. That was my era of being a fan. But at that time, not looking at it now, but you seemed like, in talking, how grounded you were, all of those things, the lessons that you learned, the base that you had, is that all what made it able for you? And how long did it really take you to deal with the fumble and really moving on inside yourself?
Yeah, the stability that I had was obviously rocked at that point. The thing that didn't happen, and I just wrote a blog about this today, was that I didn't go back and look at that game until years later. And typically when you play a season and let's put it this way, when you're in the season, you're actually able to go back out there on the field and work out some of the issues or the mistakes that cost you not to win a game. And by that game being the last game of the season, that stuck with me much longer than it probably typically would have done if we were able to do what I just mentioned. The reality is that going through that moment, the initial moment, man, I'm first of all, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired I can hardly stand up anyway. So part of me falling on the ground was, the unbelievable thing that happened, the fumble that happened. But also I was tired as I don't know what. Me sitting on the sideline, that look I had on my face, I'm tired, but I'm also trying to figure out what happened. The gravity of the moment is not necessarily there at that particular point. The gravity of the moment sunk in as time went on. And a lot of people kept reminding me and, kept holding me accountable for losing the game. And I'm the first to admit, I'm sorry, I messed it up.
It's all good.
I messed it up. I messed it up for everybody. And the way I played the game is I played to be perfect. I held myself to the higher standard, to a higher standard than anybody else. But what happened to me was because I would allow other people to decide how I looked at that moment, and I did not have the chance to actually work it out. And as with going and playing another game, that it sunk in more and more and more how much I had cost us as a team, and also the fans, the organization, all around the world. So that started that sunk into me more and more and more, and I actually became what I'd say self-conscious I would worry about what people thought about me when I went out, because, at any point, somebody would say something, and somebody would say something that would actually kind of would dig into me. People didn't understand that, words does, like that Geico commercial, words can't hurt, when that guy gets knocked off his horse.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of being knocked off of my horse, by some of the words that I allowed to penetrate me and affect me. So it took me years, after I got traded to Washington, I was playing at a high level, still playing at a high level, because I still held myself to that level. But I was weakened, and it took me to actually go through a spiritual conversion when I was in Washington, to actually forgive myself for making that mistake. It actually took that much, and it shouldn't have taken that, because you still play at a high level, you still go out and you prepare and you bust your hump, you go in, you respect the game, you respect the people that play, you respect the fans and all that. But in reality, it took a spiritual conversion for me to actually forgive myself and actually kind of move on from that and actually grow. And I think that was the time I started to do, some of the writing, some of the reflecting, some of the stuff that actually became what is the book now. And actually helped me to actually get on over the hump.
I mean, Ernest, that's a level of self-forgiveness. That's something I don't think people understand. I mean, when you talk, it's become so cliche in Cleveland, the drive, the fumble, those things have names, but that's a high level of something to stick with you for a long time. I mean, seriously, I applaud you outside of anything else. That is a tough level of self-awareness and things that get in your own head to deal with in life years later. And a lot of people go bad directions dealing with stuff like that. And you have taken it and turned it into a positive. And I remind people all the time, and you don't need me to say it, but without Ernest Byner, that fumble doesn't need to happen, because we get blown out in that game because you dropped 180 yards out there and a couple of touchdowns along the way. But let me ask you, coming so close here, what did that? I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Did that add to your level of appreciation for the run in Washington that ended with the Super Bowl? Because each step you knew how easily, boom, we could fall off track here.
Yes, it did. I mean, to be honest, yes, it did. The appreciation for what we were able to do. I said this, and it's on some of the Redskins. The video is, it was after the game, after we had, it was a sure thing that we were going to defeat Detroit and that we were going to the Super Bowl. I said, I've been crying all day. I'm crying out. I can't cry anymore. I cried on the way to the game. Because the emotions that were tied up, the fumble that had happened, the drive that had happened, that all of that was, I get another chance at going to the Super Bowl, and I cried on the way to the game. I cried in the locker room prior to the game. I cried during the game because it was just the emotions were in me. And it kept coming up, just tears just kept streaming out of my eyes. So going through that process, actually getting over that hump, was first of all tremendous for the team. Everybody on the team was thrilled for me. Once we got into the big game and I was able to score, we actually won the game. It was a lot of people on that team who were very, they were happy for themselves, but they were also happy for me that, I was able to actually go ahead and get to the big dance, to the Super Bowl, and actually be able to touch the trophy and celebrate being the ultimate champion. So yeah, it was definitely a relief, man, and it was, and not just because of the fumble, but because of the other times that we had been close. because playoffs are not a guarantee. A lot of people, they wanted to get rid of Marty. People in Denver this year, they end up getting rid of Fox. But wherever Marty went, he won. He didn't get to the big game, but at least they had the opportunity to get there. You just can't take it for granted. Those situations that they're just going to continue. And, since Martin's been gone, there's only been one other team that's gone there from the Browns. And it's time. I think it goes and comes, it ebbs and flows. And I think Penton and all those guys, I think they're going to have the opportunity to get it, especially if they can maintain that sense of equanimity, the balance. They can stay focused on the basics. They get a basic thing, the way that they want to do things, and then go ahead and get to the championship.
Hey, I'm with you on Marty. A couple years ago, when they were doing the one of the latest coaching searches, I still wanted them to go back and hire Marty. I said, man, bring him in now, and he can still do the job. I love him. Marty's the man. I'm with you, man. Absolutely. Yeah. He is a winner. That's the best way to put it. Marty Schottenheimer right now could still coach winning football. Absolutely. Let me ask you, though, after all that, and by the way, and this is no slight to the Redskins, and you can answer this however you want. I'm not looking for anything in particular. When you're sitting there after winning that Super Bowl, did part of you say, man, I wish I was wearing a Browns jersey doing this here? Did you look back and go, boy, I wish we could have finished that thing off?
Absolutely. And that's the other thing that a lot of people don't know. Eddie Johnson was actually there. He came up, and we hung out some. Matter of fact, we partied the night after the Super Bowl. He actually shared in the joy of winning it with me. So it was a blessing to be able to, that's the type of relationship we had. We homeboys anyway, both from Georgia. He's from Georgia Stafford, and our families were very close, man. And being able to share that victory with somebody like that, man, it was a treat.
Oh, the assassin, man. And see, that's the memory that lives way after the confetti and the trophy and all that stuff goes away right there, man. Talk about those memories. You came full circle. What emotional? You seem like a very hard on your sleeve kind of a guy. And what was it like that last year coming back to Cleveland when, obviously that was the year that the franchise moved and you had the big game, the last game there, that home game. But that whole thing was surreal. You came back to Cleveland just to be a part of what turned out to be the worst chapter in Browns history. What was that like?
Well, it was, first of all, getting a call from Andre Newsom about the possibility of me wanting to come back. Like I would have had to have, did I have to think about whether I would come back to Cleveland or not? Absolutely not. And, the blessing of being able to come back, Mr. Modell instigating it, then having to go through the process of earning my way with Bill Belichick, because he was the coach at that time and he didn't know me. I don't know how much he wanted me or didn't want me or what. But Mr. Modell brought me back. He gave me a press conference. The thing one of the things that stood out to me was that how the Cleveland fans welcomed me back. How they welcomed me back with open arms and showed a level of appreciation and love to me. Once I got back, kind of reminded me of that. What reminded me of that time was actually when LeBron came back to Cleveland, and the amount of love and stuff that they had for him. Now he's a homeboy and all that kind of stuff, and that should be. I wasn't. And they welcomed me back like I was like I was being welcomed back home, and that coming back to that was definitely special. The announcement we got with when Mr. Modell came in and announced to the team that the team was moving to Baltimore. Definitely surreal. You mentioned that earlier. Definitely surreal. I mean, I can remember sitting in there. I can remember it just like it was yesterday, and you could hear a pin drop in there. Nobody asked a question. Nobody said anything. I believe I believe we went on to do a meeting after that. I believe it was the Monday after a victory, and we actually ended up, I can't really remember, but either we watched some film and then we broke, and then everybody was in the locker room like, what the hell are we gonna do now? I mean, what's next for us? And for all practical purposes, I mean, the season was over. I mean, I don't know if we won one or two more games after that, but one of those victories was the last game.
Yep.
And again, that to me was a bit surreal. I mean, I get the starting nod the night before the game. In that meeting, I think Crosby was my coach at the time. Bill Milne, they told me that I was gonna start, and I asked the guys, everybody, to hold hands and let's pray. And we prayed that night. Now, getting into the game, they give me the ball like six out of the first 5 plays. It's crazy. I can't hardly breathe. I mean, I'm like, man, because I hadn't played at that level. I mean, I was contributing and playing stuff, but giving me the ball like 5 or 6 times out of the first 5 plays, man, I was like, man, my lungs were burning. And it ended up, I don't know if I scored a touchdown or not, but I ended up rushing for over 100 yards. And at the end of the game, looking around, obviously we see the chair, the bleachers and all that kind of stuff they're throwing over the side and all that. And, but after the game, toward the end of the game, I'm sitting on the sideline with Tony Jones, and he is, I said, man, I'm gonna go over here to the dog pound after the game is over, and that started what seemed to be a parade of guys coming and going around the stadium. Saw a lot of tears, some happiness. Some people were happy about, obviously we had won the game, and they were appreciative that I came and shook hands, and it was a lot of gratitude, for what had happened, that transpired between the fans and us as a team, and it was definitely a blessing to be a part of that. And also a travesty because of, a lot of Cleveland fans felt like they were losing part of their family. I think that's how they looked at the Browns as having ownership. This is ours. And that was a tough thing to live through.
I'll tell you what, man, you say that, if you ask people now, you ask me, what do you remember? Last Browns home game, before the move. There's only a few things you remember. The Browns won the game. Ernest Byner ran over 100 yards and did the lap around the stadium and was out there giving some love after the game with some of the other guys. Those are the only couple of things that really stick off of that. Let me ask you, you mentioned about the travesty of the move, but I know that you, like some of the other guys, moved on with the franchise to Baltimore, and I know every guy's got different perspectives because Baltimore also gave you your first opportunity as a coach to get out there, and it's very important that somebody gives you the chance to start your career. So knowing that, what is your thoughts on the way things went down, the moving of the team, and all of that, man?
Well, when we got to Baltimore, we moved into the old Colt facility, and actually had a chance to play in the old Colt Stadium. And to me, that was in ways an honor, because you're looking at all the history that had gone through that particular stadium. 33rd Street, stadium on 33rd Street. I got a chance to actually play in that stadium. And having that, and still trying to grow, still trying to get better, even at 13 and 14 years in the league. Still desiring to compete, still wanting to start. I actually got a chance to start both years. Ended up beating out Leroy Horde and a couple other guys. Bam Moore's got suspended for like the first 5-6 games. So ended up starting for a while there. Beat out the other guys. I mean, I was still. It was a blessing to be able to continue. Trying to play at a high level. I appreciated the opportunity to go ahead and continue that. But then also, Mr. Modell sat me down like a son and talked to me, because I told him, after they decided that I wasn't going to play after the 97th year, he told me, said, hey man, I want you here. You have a chance to do whatever you want to do. You decide what you want to do. But if you want to continue to play, you can go and look other places. He allowed me to go interview with Marty Schottenheimer. He was at Kansas City at that point. Marty wanted me to be his running back coach. But I ended up talking to a guy named Lamont Winston, who was a player development guy. And that my spirit jumped when he told me all the things that he did with the guys and how he tried to get them ready for life after football, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I went back to Mr. Modell and said, hey, man, this is, I didn't say, hey, man, hey, Mr. Modell, this is what I like to do. And they gave me the job as player development guy. But then when they hired Matt Simon was a young college guy. Ozzie gave me some additional responsibilities, and that was to assist the running back coach and make sure that the running back coach was able to, that the guys got what they needed, because he knew my desire, and part of my gifts was actually being able to help the other running backs play at a higher level. Even when I was playing, that's what I was doing. It was a gift. Again, another gift that I was able to share that was given to me. So I ended up helping him, and then for like 6 years, that's what I did. I did player development, coaching, scouting. I even worked in the weight room 1 year. I mean, it was a blessing to be able to do those things and to have an organization. Mr. Modell had an organization that actually enabled me to actually do that.
Something that I noticed here, and maybe you guys listening did too, but it just speaks to the type of person you are and the upbringing and the respect. And I always talk about how the younger generation is just different. Every single time in this interview that you've referenced Art Modell, you've called him Mr. Modell, and it's so respectful. It's just something little that I noticed right away, and I said, man, you catch that because people don't do that nowadays. And I said, boy, that just is sticking out more and more, because every time it's Mr. Modell, because that was the relationship you had and that was how you referred to him. But here, 20 plus years later, it's still automatic. Like it just rolls off your tongue that way. That's just a credit to you. Let me ask quickly. You mentioned you only had the one season with Belichick, but he was a different Bill Belichick at that time, but did you see where the future was going to go with him in that year that you got to spend with him here?
Actually, no. I knew that he was a good coach. Yeah, I knew. I mean, he was a good coach, and we were playing at a high level. The team was on the climb up. And the thing that stood out to me was first year that I was there, the playoff game the night before the playoff game, the last playoff game that we were partook in, versus Pittsburgh. He showed a videotape of all the turnovers that Pittsburgh had caused that year. And it was a lot of us were really pissed off about that. I mean, you don't do that the night before a game. So that was to me, that was one of the mistakes that he made as a head coach. And I just hated that to the nth degree, and thought that would be, something, if he continued that type of coaching, that would be something that would definitely hinder him. But I think, when you heard things, when you're 1 or 2 years later, when you start hearing things about what he was doing in New England, I was like, that's a little bit different than what he did here in Cleveland. So no, I didn't see that coming out of him. But the thing that I mentioned earlier when I mentioned Pettin was that coaches have to develop and become head coaches, just like players have to develop and become better players as they get the exposure. And Bill, he's one of those guys I think who was looking for perfection, was just trying to get it to where he could actually keep producing the type of winning that he wanted to do, and part of that was his own development, and he did a good job of developing himself, but also developing the players and the other coaches around him to be able to go on and have the monstrosity of success that he's had. And he's won 4 Super Bowls now. He's been to 7?
Yeah.
I mean, or 8? Oh, no, 7. And it's an amazing thing to see him become the type of coach that he has become.
It's funny because your answer mimics a lot of the guys that played under him in that first run in Cleveland, that he had to change things, but when they saw what he did, then it was off and running. But he learned from the mistakes that he made here early on. Yeah. I bet you coming in, too, I'm curious, what were your thoughts coming in with this guy as your coach, knowing what had just happened 6 months previously or whatnot with Bernie, who you were here through all the good years of Bernie? I'm guessing your thoughts coming in were like, hey, what are we doing here? You know, I bet you it was a unique situation just coming back in general that was the real change, the bridge between 93 to 94 when Bernie was cut and the fan base got real soured on things, and here you come back right in the middle of that. That was definitely interesting. When that happened, when I was in Washington, one of the thoughts was, man, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? What's the deal? And so when I came back, I had a couple of preconceived ideas because I heard how difficult the training camps were, and how crazy it seems like some of the stuff that was being done was. Right.
As a veteran player, you develop some habits and some things or ways of thinking based on the success that you've had. I mean, I obviously had some success in the league. I'm like, man, what is this? So I had my eyes open, and actually still was ready to learn. But I'm still a player, but then I still wanted to develop. So I had to earn my keeps, and I didn't mind that. But it was funny, seeing. It's still funny coming back and BK not being there and knowing what had happened previously.
I mean, because by that point, the majority of those guys had been gone. The few years previously, the roster purge was on, and they had cleaned house on a lot of the older veteran guys. And like I said, that was, and people point to that. That was kind of the schism that broke the fan base and Modell apart at that point, where it allowed everything that happened to go on and happen. But that's the past, man. And I feel bad for Ernest Byner. I'm never letting him go. I'm just holding him hostage here. We could talk about his career forever. But fast forwarding, you then went on a run just as long now in the coaching ranks as you did here. You went through Baltimore, Washington, circled back there. You did some stuff with the Titans as a running back coach, the Jaguars, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Up until last season, your first season off the sidelines since 97?
First season of 31 years not being involved. So,
man, what has your coaching journey been like along the years? Has it been as fulfilling as you thought it would be? Because you started out wanting to be a coach, ended up playing for all those years, and then you finally reached that point where you did get into that coaching. Was it as fulfilling as you thought it would be?
Yes, in some ways, and no in others. No, first because of some of the situations that I got in with some of the head coaches. Some of the ways that I saw things, and actually ended up butting heads with some of the head coaches, which is not good. That's not the way to do things. And from my perspective, I've always wanted to be the team player, always have been a team player. But, I always believed in certain ways of doing things that I knew that were successful. And sometimes having a discussion about something, some people look at it as being disagreeable. But, I'm just trying to express and tell you some of the things that I know that going to help these kids be what they need to be, both on and off the field. And sometimes those kids weren't necessarily on board either. I mean, I had some about 3 players that really challenged me, and it made it difficult for me to have the correct relationship with the head coach, and also and being able to help them. So I know now. Sometimes I'm a bit difficult. I know that. I'm the first to say that, and so some of that, because of some of those ways of dealing with guys and some of the ways of seeing it differently. Now, I did what I was told to do. Whether I liked it or not, I would express my thoughts when asked. Sometimes when I wasn't, and probably shouldn't have did it. But I would express my thoughts about how I thought things. But when I was told and was asked to do things a certain way, I did as I was told by the offensive coordinator and also by the head coach. Not unlike a lot of other coaches that have done as well. Now, anyway, saying that, that to me, kind of some of the bureaucracy of the coaching business,
politics, yeah.
I didn't necessarily like working with the guys, developing the film, teaching them, then being able to see the guys take what you teach them and go and make plays and do the thing, and also take what you're teaching and then teach the other guys that I can remember just standing and hearing Greg Jones teach someone something that I taught him maybe a year before. I mean, being able to hear that stuff, guys take what you give them, make it theirs, and then pass it on. That is as fulfilling as anything. As a coach, being able to see a guy doing what you witness what he's doing while watching the film. Like Chris Johnson, I would show him something on Wednesday and see it on the field on Sunday. And man, there's nothing like being able to actually help the guys both on and off the field. That was the things that I've always done. Even again, I'll take it back as a player. If someone was not doing what they needed to do on the field, off the field, because both affects each. What you do on the field affects what you do off the field. What you do off the field affects what you do on the field. So being able to help guys to help them to see and understand that, hey, we got to try to get this right before we can get this right over here. Because it's going to affect you eventually. So being able to help the guys understand both of those, to help them grow, and both of those dynamics is something that I cherish doing, love doing, and would enjoy doing now. I'm just gonna have to do it from a different perspective.
Ernest, I can literally feel everything you just said. I love flipping on the television and literally watching somebody. You go, hey, I know where you got that from, man. It's so fulfilling, and you watch it, but not just on the TV, not just like, oh, hey, big star. I'm talking about on a small level. I'll be on a small show in front of a few hundred people, and I'll watch a kid who is learning, and he comes up to me and asks me for some advice, and then he'll go do it, and you're like, there you go, kid, there you go, but it's so fulfilling. Is there a difference? Because everybody talks about the modern generation and how different the youth is. You've got 31 years of experience. That's a bunch of different generations of players. What percentage of these guys are coachable, are up for whatever Coach Byner tells them in the NFL, and how many of them are, they'll listen because they have to, but they don't necessarily apply what you do?
Right. Part of the gift of coaching is being able to figure out the different mindsets that you're dealing with, and be able to figure out a way to get within that mindset to get the guy to buy into what you're teaching, and what you're asking and what you're demanding. Matter of fact, because sometimes you have to demand, sometimes you have to ask, sometimes you have to demand, but then sometimes you have to ask questions of the individual to try to get him to give you the answer. Because for the most part, this is how I figured out how to teach these guys. And one reason is my first coaching job. I had Clinton Porters who didn't want to listen to what I said, and had a relationship with some higher ups that was a little bit suspect, and he thought that he didn't have to listen. So I had to figure out at that point how to teach these guys something, how to teach someone who didn't want to hear it, how to get them to buy into what you were teaching, what you were asking, with them not actually knowing that they were buying in. So those abilities to kind of figure out people and then kind of teach around some of the ways that their minds already thinking is, again, another gift that was given. So the different mindset that is within these guys that come up, basically doing almost anything that every now and again you get a throwback guy, you get an old school guy that listen, that takes it and is ready to just run through a brick wall for you. But most of the time, at this point, and this probably I started to see this more probably 6 years ago, where you actually had to almost you had to work around the mentality of the guy and try to figure out how to get within him. And see, that takes time and takes a lot of effort, and try to get them to buy into what you teach them. It's definitely a process, and it's a worthy one, because if you can get it, that's when you get the perpetual thing that's happening in New England, where the players get it and they pass it down to the other guys. Once you get a situation like that, man, that's a beautiful thing.
Man, I'll tell you, I'm not your agent or anything, but if the Browns are listening, this man could fit in just nicely on your sidelines with the coaching staff. And I'm digging where you're coming from, absolutely, on all of that. Ernest, Byner, great Browns running back here. I see why they call you Coach Byner. Absolutely, because you are a coach at heart for sure, man. Fast forward machine here, by the way. You're talking about these guys and all of that. You've mentioned a few times here about the things the Browns are doing, but you see the issues. They've got a lot in the news right now. Josh Gordon's got tons of stuff around him. You got Johnny Manziel. You got accountability. You got all these words being thrown out there. You seem like as good a guy as any just to ask, maybe not specifically, but, what do you do? I mean, you know what it's like firsthand, not to look on the outside and say, oh, cut this guy and trade that guy and do this. You know what guys are going through, what attitudes are like, what realities are like in the NFL. Talk to me a bit about some of these situations with the Browns and how you would go about dealing with some of these things.
You got to build from within. You got to get what is your base beliefs, and when you say something, mean it, do it, and stick with it. I think the consistency level with the organization has to be there, and that has to start. That starts from the top and works all the way down. You have to have consistency. You have to have an organization that doesn't operate on knee-jerk reactions. The guys that are running it now, the guys that are the GM and the head coach, they both need to have a level of consistency that's been given to them from ownership, and allowed to do the things in a way that holds. Just basic things that life offers: consistency, accountability. When you say accountability, what does that actually mean? How do you hold somebody accountable? If someone says that they desire to do something, how do you ensure that they do it? Do you have the follow up? Do you have the level of love that it takes for people, basically, that is needed to go out and make these things happen? Do you have the ability to sit a guy down and and get him to buy in to what you're preaching. And the team concept, family, team concept. When you say those things, mean it and follow up with it. I think, if you can keep it just that basic, it sounds so simple, but it's really hard to deal with, because when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with the emotions of the people, you're dealing with the cares and the desires of people. If you can get them to buy into the basic premise of that, we're going to operate as a family. We're going to take this as a family. Whatever your job is, whether it's the janitor in the building or it's the ownership, some of the basic principles of business are all the same. Some of the basic principles of life, all the same, and they apply to the football team and to people in general. So if you operate from, in my perspective, in my opinion, if you operate from that, then you can really make some things happen. You'll have a lot of success. Everybody's not going to be happy all the time. That's not going to happen. But if we got the common goal, we got the common, In Search of Common Ground is a book that I love. When you are in search of common ground, you find that common ground, you operate from that common ground, you can make a lot of things happen that will benefit the many, as opposed to trying to shape things to a few people and a few ideas. No, if you can find that common ground and operate from that, then you can really make some things happen.
And you know what? Something that I think in this past year, especially with a couple of the guys like Dansby and Whitner that they brought in on the defensive side of the ball, going back to the beginning of our conversation, you said something that I'm literally hearing it echo right back now. It's easy to go, the old Browns, the new Browns, and all of that. But in reality, you mentioned earlier about how those Browns teams held themselves accountable for all of these things, and they answered to each other. And that has nothing to do with the front office. It's easy, and yes, the Browns have had dysfunction in the front office. Hey, Art Modell wasn't the greatest decision maker with the Browns either. Obviously, people know he made mistakes, and he made good signings and bad, whatever. Point is there's a certain level where it's just on the players, and I think now, finally, you're starting to get some of that locker room accountability back, where I always say this stuff would have never flew back in your day, back in those Browns. Some of the stuff you see, whether even silly things, Braylon Edwards monkeying around and then cuts his foot and can't play, and all of these off-field things that have hurt the Browns over the years, you guys would have never, that wouldn't have been tolerated in the locker rooms. Forget what the general manager or the owner or the coach thought. You guys would have policed that stuff. And I think that the Browns have been missing a locker room that just holds itself accountable for so long.
You see, you call that ownership. A lot of people, they'll point to some of the other things that are being done. They point to the offense coordinator not calling the right play. You point to the head coach maybe not doing some, or the GM. No, players when they got that ownership. And they're holding each other like you just said, holding to a different level of accountability, and putting their arms around each other. Then that makes a total difference. Whatever the coach is teaching, grab it, learn it, and then go ahead and teach. Have that ownership.
Guys, we have just spent over an hour telling you why the next statement is very important. Now you've really heard firsthand why Ernest Byner put together Everybody Fumbles, and let's talk about that, because I know that's your latest passion, the book you put together. Tell everybody, for those that listen, what it is. Everybody Fumbles isn't just a football book or a life book, or it's kind of all of that handbook there. Talk to everybody about your latest work.
Absolutely. I mean, it's layers of athletic life, of football life, and also just regular life. It encompasses a lot. It's about the fumble, but it has about 50 different short stories in it that have different references to football. The analogies are mainly about football, but there's a bunch of analogies that cross over into so much life. that people that are interested in football, that want to develop their football mind, they can go into it and get a lot out of it. But there are also people that are interested in just personal development. It's a book that you can go in and glean some stuff from as well. If you have a kid, if you have an athlete in your house, if you are a coach that's looking to develop yourself, but also develop some other people, then it's something in there for you as well. It's a book full of life that can give in so many different ways. Again, the game and life has so many layers. The book, it has so many layers as well. It encompasses so many different aspects. It's a chapter in there on how to use the breath to develop yourself, to strengthen the mind, to give yourself energy. Man, it's a book full of life, and it's really taken my my life to write it and put it together finally. And again, it's still probably will be something that will end up being added to at some point. It'll be another edition. Who knows? Because I'm actually still writing. I write poetry. I have that. They can get the book in two ways. One is it's on Amazon. You can type Everybody Fumbles in on Amazon, and you can pull it up there. The other way is just go to my website, EarnestByner21.com. That's EarnestByner21.com. They can go to the website, order it off the website. There's a bunch of pictures on there. Matter of fact, it's the 30th anniversary of Kevin and I rushing for for 1,000 yards apiece. Yeah. And that's coming up. We have pictures, and we have 16 by 20 pictures, 8 by 10 pictures already signed by Kevin and I that people can get. And there's some other pictures and stuff that's on there as well if they just want to tool around. The other thing that's on the website is a lot of blogs. And
I saw that.
Those blogs will teach. I just wrote one again today, and I think it's called Progress, Not Perfection. That talks about the development process. Deals with some of that possibility. But it's a lot of good information. It's a blessing to be able to give. The book is $19.99, something like that. It's not, it costs you a 20 spot to get it, So, but it's some good stuff in that book, man. It's, as I've said, I'll say it again, life is full of layers. The book is called Everybody Fumbles. The analogy is that everybody does make mistakes. That's going to happen. But, in each experience, there's a lesson for us to learn, and part of the book will help you go through whatever your situation is, whatever your fumble is. Learn from that fumble, but also be able to teach from it as well. It's a real good product. I'm really proud of it.
I'll tell you what, I've seen nothing but good reviews and feedback from this. While you were talking, I made it even one step easier for people. On all of our social media just now, I posted the direct link where you can just click right on it and go get the book right off of EarnestByner21.com. So if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter, it's all right out there. And, too, listening to you, and I believe you do public speaking as well, because you seem like you would be one heck of a motivational speaker, man, as well. You definitely grab somebody by the bootstraps, make them want to go out and get something done when they get done talking to you,
I would love it. Yeah. Put that out there for me, because that's one of the things that I'm looking into now is going into public speaking.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done it while I was playing, while I was a coach, and I've done some recently. You probably saw the interview on CNN. That's this stuff to really be able to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. The public speaking arena is something that I'm looking forward to getting involved with. So, I appreciate you bringing that up, man, because that is definitely something that I'm interested in doing. Schools, colleges, businesses that having seminars. That's the type of stuff that I'm really looking to. That's probably the next step, and the base of a lot of it would be Everybody Fumbles.
I've got to tell you, Ernest, I'm sure you didn't expect to sit here this long with me, but I sit here knowing so much more about just seeing you, and not necessarily in a different light, because I knew where you were coming from, but it's just different.
Okay.
I mean, talking to you here, man, just it's so refreshing and wide open.
All
Just
right.
an incredible conversation. And I think hopefully some people out there listening, I mean, it's one thing to see somebody as a football player, as a celebrity, as an athlete, as a quotation marks around the words, the fumble, but this is 3D. This is bringing the reality of Ernest Byner to people. I hope that came across to everybody. I mean, plus, and again, going back to not kissing up to you, but you are proof that you really can do it all the right way. You can be an athlete. You can be a family guy. You can be spiritual. You can be a role model. You can do all of those things, man, at the same time. It doesn't have to, we see so many stories the opposite. And I love to stress the good ones because there's not enough of that. It's easy to open up the news with the bad stuff. Nobody opens it up with the good stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that has to be stressed because otherwise people only see one side of things. But really, you are proof that you can not only do it, but do it well and give back because your whole life has been about giving back.
Right. And this is one of the things that I really ascribe. We try to do the right thing for the right reasons. What I do, I try to do the right things for the right reasons. Obviously, still a work in progress. Sometimes you obviously you cross paths with different people. Sometimes things are not as smooth as you want, but you learn from those experiences. You learn, you grow, you try to get more understanding. I've definitely been blessed. It's been an honor being on with you, man. I appreciate the opportunity. I love the possibilities of sharing, and have definitely enjoyed this process. And I think Denzel said it in his latest movie. Perfection sought, progress accepted. So we look for perfection. And a lot of times we look for perfection in other people, but I'm looking for perfection in me. I'm trying to get it right. Still trying to get it right. I'm 52 years old, but still learning, still growing, and still love, trying to get to another level. So it's definitely a blessing, man. I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
Growing. I love that word. People say, "Oh, you can't change me." I say, if you can't change, then you can't grow, man. And that's the secret of life. I thank you so much, seriously, Ernest, for being with us. I really appreciate the opportunity, and this has been a great interview. Thank you for sticking probably much longer than you thought you were going to be hanging out. You thought you were going to hit a little 10-minute radio spot and plug the book and be out. You're like, man, hour and a half.
Hey, man, you got me where my heart was, man. You got me where all the spots that you hit. You hit the right spots, man. So it made it easy.
This has been great. You made it easy. I didn't even realize how much time went. I looked up and I said, man, I'm surprised. He's like, hey, man, I got to hit it. But thank you, seriously, so much. And by the way, I can't put a number on this. I've gotten dozens during the show of basically the same comment. People that were around during your era that say thank you from Browns fans for the memories, for everything. And at the end of the day, they don't care. I know the fumble is going to live in legacy, but it's everything that we just talked about. That is just one small chapter in a much bigger legacy, my friend. Thank you very much again for joining us. It was my honor to have you here on the show, Ernest.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love it, man.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I'll send you off a copy of this as soon as we get done. And again, I posted the link out, and we'll do it again later on today as well. So people can go back anytime, 24/7, and listen to this and all of that. So thank you very much again, and enjoy the rest of your day, Ernest.
You too. Have a great one.
You too. Ernest Byner. And, of course, the website, again, earnestbyner21.com. We put the links out. Everybody Fumbles is the book. Man, that was seriously, you guys are hearing it live. We just, neither one of us even realized how long that thing was going. I love it. And hopefully you guys did too. That was one of my favorite interviews by far that I've got a chance to sit down here and do, man. Let's take a break off of that one. Catch our breath, everybody. We got to catch up here on a break. Get you some news coming up. I'll get Dan Wismar on the phone here. We'll take a breath, come back, circle around, talk a little bit about that. That was a fantastic, seriously, guys, that's the side, the perspective of things that people need to hear more of and less about the stuff that, some of the stuff that we're probably going to be talking about in the next segment, because now we get to jump back into who did what wrong and why and where, but you love to hear that. And I mean it. Now that he's off the air, I can come back and say this and feel like I'm not blowing smoke or anything. You guys know I'm not, but you're always self-conscious about that. But man, seriously, think about something that you did in your life being immortalized to the point that it has a 2-word handle that anybody at the snap of a finger knows exactly what it is before you even finish the second half of the second word. You go, and people know where you're going. Browns fans know where you're going. Think about being immortalized in something at that level. It really does take the right spiritual and emotional base, the right ground set up, and that's where your upbringing. He talked about his grandmother and different influences he had. You got to have a strong base, because, man, there's a lot of people that would go in the wrong direction. That's an internal thing that just sits with you for years and years and years. Man, that's a credit right there. I could not imagine being at that level and then being able to turn it around, man, and make it work for you like Ernest did. Thanks to him for joining us. Thanks to you guys for being with us. Let's take a break, catch our breath, come on back after the news. Dan Wismar will be with us, and we'll pick this bad boy right up when we come back next here on the Sports Fix, baby.
Red! Hit me! Up and down! And all around!
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Hey, this is Scott Fujita, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Today on Save on Taxes, we ask 100 people what costs less than filing your taxes with IRS Free File.
Car seat.
Oh, a pair of shoes. The correct answer is nothing. When you use Free File, you get brand name software, tax prep, e-filing, and help with the new healthcare provisions, all for free.
So, did we win anything?
Everybody wins. freefile.irs.gov. It's fast, it's safe, it's free.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
I'm Doug Gottlieb with this CBS Sports Minute. So the Cavs have won 11 in a row, and the Hawks just lost their first game in 20 games. What's that mean? There's an expression, water finds its level, or regression to the mean, or regression towards the mean. I always got confused. Is it the median or the mean, or what is it? Anyway, at the end of the day, the Cavs are the team you most expect to be in the NBA Finals from the Eastern Conference. The Bulls will be along there with them. And then there's the Hawks, which is a feel-good story of good players that's probably going to be a challenger. But don't get caught up in what's happened in January as to what's going to happen in July. That's never been the way that the NBA has worked. Enjoy the story, enjoy the style, but remember, there's a reason that water has found its level in Cleveland. I'm Doug Gottlieb.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We're rolling on. We're already well into hour 2. We're getting close to hour 3 here. That was an incredible previous segment. What else can I say? Thank you to Ernest, Byner. Seriously, that was one of my favorite interviews we've done here on the show, man. That was fantastic. That was to me, that was the way you do it. Nothing scripted. We went with it, man. And I could have let him go on and on. I'm telling you, I had him hostage. He wasn't going anywhere. I could have kept him for another 2 days and kept talking to him. But thank you guys. I've already got a ton of feedback during the break. Apparently, some of you guys may have enjoyed that. Thanks to Ernest for being with us. Again, we posted the links to Everybody Fumbles across all of our social media. So check us out, facebook.com/The Sports Fix. If you don't follow us, tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Excuse me, it's at The Sports Fix CLE, and those links are tweeted out, or you can go directly on Amazon.com, look for Everybody Fumbles, or Ernest Byner and the number 21.com. Thanks again to EB for being with us. Yeah, Charles, as you said in the chat room, that one's definitely going to be in the best of. The next time we have a pre-recorded program, you can bet that one will probably be coming back at you next. So let's do it. Let's keep rolling. Speaking of next, Dan Wismar joins us here every Wednesday on the Sports Fix, and we talked on Monday about looking forward to this one, and he's going to follow it up. We got a lot of things to talk to here. We'll circle, and this is it's almost like the conundrum of life here in sports, because I'm all uplifted coming out of that, feeling good, looking for positivity. Who can we go help? Let's go do something good. And then we're going to circle back and all these stories here. I'm looking at the run sheet, and it's like, all right, what's going on with this guy? Salazar, Gordon, DeQuell Jackson. Got guys in the UFC failing drug tests. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of the normal. And it's like, do we even want to die? I mean, you have to, because I don't know what else we're going to talk about here. But it's a boom. Very stark contrast there between where we came out of and then diving right back into the day-to-day fun that is sports and sports news and all of that. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan going to do that jump with us. Let's do it. Go right back to the phones again. You guys hit us up, facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Dan Wismar, how you doing, my friend?
I am very well, sir. It's National Letter of Intent Day. Buckeyes
yes,
had a big morning this morning, and just wanted to say before we go elsewhere, really enjoyed the interview with Ernest. Sat there, was able to listen to the better part of it as I was trying to get a few things done. But like you say, uplifting and in stark contrast to so much of the other bad news that's going on. What a guy. Just enjoyable to hear that, and he's a guy that I obviously have watched in person many times. And I think I was just remembering, Jerry, sitting in the dog pound one year. It was the first time I ever took my son to a Browns game. I believe it was an exhibition game. I remember it was against the Packers, and I think it was 85, but I'm not sure about that. That would have made my son about 7 years old. Ernest Byner broke his ankle in that game. That's the one memory I have of the first game I went to with my son, the Ernest Byner breaking his ankle and sitting in the dog pound. It was also the day that I decided hey, if I'm going to get season tickets, I probably want to do it somewhere else besides the dog pound because it's no place to take a 7-year-old. But anyway, I remembered Byner breaking his ankle, and I want to say it was a preseason game. And I don't know if you recall that, but I remember being kind of just busted up about it because obviously he was already a proven entity and a good player. And when he went down that day, it was a sad thing. But anyhow, enjoyable. You did a nice job with the interview, and you don't need to say a lot more about Ernest. He's quite a guy.
I'll tell you what, and hopefully, I'll get a chance to, listen back to it later. But the tough thing on my side was trying not to, come on. How many years has it been now? How many interviews has Ernest Byner done? Books have been written ad nauseum. I mean, how do you ask questions that haven't already been asked? You know what I mean? Because I get it. Okay, it's my turn to ask the same questions as everybody else, but I didn't want to do that. Like, I didn't want to go, hey, so what were you thinking when you fumbled the ball? And, hey, what was it like on the airplane afterwards? And, so hopefully we at least hit a couple of things there that maybe he hasn't talked about before, or at least not as much, because, again, it's difficult because the easy thing to do is just go, hey, yeah, let's just follow the checklist, ABC, ask all the usual stuff. And I don't know. You've been around longer than me. You've heard a lot more than me. I don't know. Hopefully we did some of that there. If not, I'll have to work harder on that the next time.
No, I think Ernest, obviously, he was not at all averse to talking about the fumble itself, his feelings about it. I was a little bit surprised. In fact, put a tweet out about it that it said it took him years to forgive himself for it.
Yeah.
Thought that was very telling. But I thought he treated the whole issue of the fumble. Obviously he's had to deal with it and deal with it and deal with it some more over the years. So he can't be not used to talking about it. He handled it, I thought, very thoughtfully and really genuinely, I guess I would say, in terms of his feelings about it immediately, how he didn't really get it at the time, and then, of course, later how it took him a long, long time to get over it himself and to forgive himself for it. I thought that was just very thoughtful and, admirable that he's dealing with it that way.
You know what? Tell me if you got the same feeling. But, I mean, he's such a genuine guy that there's some people, a lot of people in sports that I believe it rolls off the back. I mean, maybe you're a little bit disappointed that you didn't win the game, but it's just another game, another team, another season, and they look at it very businesslike. But he's such a genuine cat that you can tell that would be the kind of person that would be something that he would have to work hard to get over. You know what I mean? Some guys, it's like, oh, well, wish we would have won that game, but it wouldn't live with them because they don't have that true investment, like he had there. And again, that makes it admirable because I couldn't imagine, Dan, imagine if you were known for your whole life for one phrase of this moment that people use to falsely encapsulate everything that you did, and that's tough, man. A lot of people can go the wrong way mentally under the pressure of all that over the years, man.
Yeah, that's so true, and I think to his credit, it probably helped a lot to follow the career path into coaching, which he did, to work with other players and basically let them know, hey man, no matter what you do, how bad you screw up, look at me. Talk about making mistakes and pushing on from them. You ain't seen nothing yet till you get to a situation like that. So certainly, I'm sure he was able to make some younger backs feel good about it. I just spent a couple minutes on his website during the conversation when he talked about it, and he's got some testimonials from some guys, some running backs that he's worked with and helped, say a lot about the kind of guy that he is and how much he was able to help them in their career. So kind of cool, and it was just real interesting to listen to the whole thing.
And he's available now. No more no competes or anything. He's signable, Browns. I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind Ernest Byner teaching the Crow and the West how to go out there. Everybody wants to call him Baby Mac and Byner. Well, let's get Daddy in there to teach him how to live up to the shoes a little bit here, Get him working on catching some of those passes out of the backfield. He only caught about 8,000 or 9,000 yards worth of catches out of the backfield as well. But, not trying to honk the guy for a job, but I wouldn't be be adverse to him bringing that experience of 31 years to the sidelines and helping. You look at those guys and you go, what does everybody say? Mac and Byner, man. Well, there you go, man. Teach them from the
that's
the original.
true. And of course, the Browns have a former NFL running back as their running back coach right now, Wilbert Montgomery. But yeah, you're right.
And I like Montgomery. I like what they've done. I'm with you. I'm not trying to cost anybody their job. I'm just saying we could find an extra spot on the coaching staff here, can't we? I mean,
sure. There you go,
man. But anyways, and motivational speaking too, like you said. Who could stand in front of a room of people, even whether you're talking young people or whatnot, and say, okay, here's what I did. And here's how I got over it. So take what you did and tell me how big it is compared to this here, because every year when the date of what I did comes around, that gets reminded on everything you watch. I can't turn on the TV on that day every year because I know that I'm going to see everything put out there as we go. Tough stuff, cool stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing, two things, and you mentioned one of them, about the fumble itself. Number one, as is well documented, he had a great day. He talked about his exhaustion, and who can blame him? He had carried the team on his back to that point in the game. And the other thing that people forget about is that it would not have been the game-winning touchdown. It would have been the game-tying touchdown had he scored it. And so it's not as though, if he scores it, we win. If he scores it, we tie, and we keep on playing. Just one of those little things that sometimes gets lost in the drama of the whole event.
Oh yeah, you and I've talked about that before. That's why I mentioned that on there. Absolutely there. But anyways, great stuff. Thank you. Good to talk about it a little bit there. Again, I keep getting stuff while we're talking from guys going, great talk, great conversation. So really glad you guys enjoyed that one, man. You know what? We're football Browns. Let's stick it right there. I was going to talk to you a little bit, not much to talk about with Josh Gordon, but I'm seeing this now, just starting to come across my alerts here. I don't know if you have as well. The texting with the coaching on the sidelines and all of that. Apparently, word coming out, the Browns may end up dealing with some stuff here. Ray Farmer could get suspended over this. The team may have to forfeit some draft picks, and there's a potential 6-figure fine being talked about here. Apparently, the NFL much more seriously investigating. I think a lot of people just kind of thought that the texting from the sidelines to the coaches thing was something to deal with as far as Shanahan, and it just meant a dysfunctional organization. But apparently, the NFL, that's a very big no-no, and this could end up being another black eye on the Browns.
I did hear that, and that's disturbing. One of the things that, of course, the thing that everybody on my timeline has been talking about today is the new Jason Luckenfor article about dysfunction on the Browns, and it's worse than he thought. And he apologizes for being a Jimmy Haslam fan. And I don't know if you've had a chance to read that yet. I read it all the way through, and it is
what is this about?
Profoundly depressing about the Cleveland Browns. They talk about the texting. Luckenfor does, and let's just stipulate up front, Jerry, that when we read a Jason Luckenfor article, we can assume that the people that are blown in his ear are Joe Banner and Mike Lombardi.
Mike Lombardi, that's exactly where it came from.
His standard sources, and also now probably Kyle Shanahan, too, who is well connected with those other two guys. So and now gone from the team. So when sources say, we know who sources are. Who knows who else he has in the front office. Now, that is not to say that anything that he's saying about the dysfunction in the Browns front office lacks credibility, because it rings true, certainly. One thing that he makes very clear in this article is that it was Jimmy Haslam's call to draft Johnny Manziel, that the front office, that the coaching staff and Farmer had in order as their quarterback preference Derek Carr, then Teddy Bridgewater, then Johnny Manziel. So the idea that they said after the fact that he was the top quarterback on their board is BS. Lots of other things, including talking about the texting from front office to sideline. They said it was from Ray Farmer to Dowell Loggins. That's the word in this particular article. So there's lots of insights. If you can buy all of what Luckenfor is saying, and I'm not saying I have any reason not to, as long as we're upfront about who the sources are, maybe some disgruntled former employees that got fired by Jimmy Haslam with an axe to grind. But if you take that with a grain of salt, everything in the article rings true, at least to me.
I'm looking as you talk. I actually just pulled it up. It came out while we were on the air, so I'm just
right.
now, I think it came out just a few
I
minutes
read
after
it while
12.
I was listening to Ernest Byner talk.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as you're talking
and it's
here.
It's heavy. It's a
It's
heavy
worse
come
than
down
it sounds.
on the whole organization, on Haslam, on Farmer too, and how Farmer and how the front office and the coaching staff were at odds increasingly over the course of the season, how the front office did, in fact, lean on Pettine to play Manziel as the season went along. All kinds of very damning kinds of revelations about the dysfunction in this team, how it's worse now than it was before, that he starts it off by apologizing for being happy about Jimmy Haslam being named owner, buying the team, because he said he thought it would get better, and in fact it has gotten worse, and they're in worse shape a year later than they were a year ago. So it really is a depressing thing for somebody like me, who's a season ticket holder and a lifer fan, to read, because you'd like to think that things were on the improving as opposed to going the other direction.
Well, speaking of things that ring true, here's something I can talk about as I look at just one portion of this. If you guys remember, towards the end of the season, I told you guys that I was told that there was a business person in the Browns front office who literally was lamenting the money left on the Johnny Manziel stuff and all of that, and that was the Browns just completely mismanaged the opportunity to make this win. Shiner's the guy I was referring to from just a business side of the front office guy, and this article is hitting it right on the head. This was what I've been told. That's one of the guys who started to blur the lines between the two, as he's right-hand man with Jimmy Haslam. He's supposed to be a business operational guy, building stadiums and practice facilities and all of these kind of things, forming brand partnerships and naming rights. Those are all the things he did down with the Cowboys. And, it's definitely a situation where it appears anyway, a guy got a little taste of being able to, be in the mix with the guys, in there with the football people. And now that's gone to another level as
that he's involving himself now in personnel matters.
Exactly.
The other depressing thing, J-Rocc, in hindsight now, is to hear pretty much confirmation that the team had Josh Gordon traded for a second-round pick to the 49ers, and Jimmy Haslam personally squelched the deal, which would have left the Browns with not only 2 first-round picks last year, but 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks, and all this cap space. Talked about the knuckleheads, the 2 first-round knuckleheads, and it talks about how Justin Gilbert was much more of a knucklehead, and every bit the knucklehead that Johnny Manziel is or was, and it's just disheartening that they took what could have been 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds, turned it into both first-round picks into non-productive picks, and basically blew the chance to get a second-round pick for Josh Gordon, and which would look pretty good right about now.
I'll tell you what, too. I'm just literally catching up to you on this. So as you talk, I'm reading perhaps the next paragraph or whatnot. How about the description of the post-Atlanta game where even with the 3 interceptions by Hoyer, and I'll tell you what, I got a funny feeling when the details on this texting thing come out, that's the game where the texts were sent. I would be willing to bet that may be where this thing started. But how about the description of Hoyer leading that final drive? Browns win. Remember, that was the high point. They were 7-4. And how in the locker room, while everybody's celebrating and Brian Hoyer's kind of the center of the media scrum, and Haslam and Shiner are off in the corner, not celebrating, not even appearing to be happy, because apparently in their mind that bought another week for Brian Hoyer and not to start the Johnny Manziel train. I mean, think about that. Yeah, a crazy victory, and your owner is not happy. Oh, my goodness, man.
Yeah, it's just disheartening, Jerry, to read it.
I'm sick to my stomach reading this, Dan.
Now, and they want me to send them a check by the 13th of March
for 27% more.
Increase.
Yeah,
for a 30% increase on my season ticket price. They want their money 2 months sooner this year. Used to have till May 1 to get them the money. Now they want it March 13th. It just makes me feel like burying my checkbook without sending them any more money.
I know the Browns have stunk, okay? But things, and maybe apparently against the plan of ownership, things have somehow accidentally maybe started to get better for the Browns here in the last, season or so. But you sit, I mean, look at this. They get together. The coaching staff has a unanimous vote to keep Brian Hoyer as starter. Johnny Manziel still ends up getting the gig. I mean, that's dysfunction at a different level than the usual Brown stuff that you're used to. I'm not even joking. I'm literally feeling that kick in the gut feeling reading this, going, some of this stuff you knew. Some of it I was told whispers of, like I said, about some of the business people being involved. But, man, to just have it all laid out there, you go, wow, this is what's that the runaway train? That one kind of fits again here, man.
Yeah, it really does. It's almost like,
what the hell? How do you fix it?
Yeah.
How do you fix it?
Yeah, and how do you fix it? Well, and basically what he's saying is, don't be surprised if we go through one more season and we have another house cleaning, because if there's this kind of rift between Pettine and the front office, Pettine and his staff, how do they hope to survive?
They won't.
Especially looking at what is conceivably a train wreck of a 2015 season. So yeah, it really just, like you say, kick in the gut is a good description of it.
How about Shanahan, Dan? Did you read that part about
Shanahan? I read the whole thing. Which part?
Sat down with a 32-point presentation on why he should be allowed out of his contract. I mean, that's nuts. Kyle Shanahan had 32 reasons why the Browns should let him out of his contract. And remember we talked about that. I tweeted about it right afterwards. I said, clearly that man has the leverage in this situation because the Browns let him walk away free and clear and take a job with somebody else when they had a 3-year contract.
And we kind of speculated that he probably had him over a barrel because of this texting scandal.
And he did, obviously.
But who knew he had 31 other reasons?
32 points, man. I mean, that's one for every team in the league. That's one for every team in the league, man. I'm telling you, bro. I could just imagine. Seriously, give me a second to joke here. I could imagine sitting at a table with this brain trust and a PowerPoint presentation as Kyle Shanahan is going down the list of reasons. His lawyers are next to him. His agent is on the other side of the table, and they're telling the Browns, well, if that's not good enough, you also did this. I mean,
or maybe the Browns lawyers saying, okay, you can go. I don't need to hear the other 27 reasons.
Stop at 5. I'm good. You guys got it. Can you burn this PowerPoint that was probably part of the deal, is he had to leave behind the originals of the PowerPoint. Like, you know how when somebody blackmails you with the videotape, you've got to give them all the originals and everything, and there it is. He had to turn over everything. All right, then they had a little burning. They burned all the stuff so that all the evidence would melt away,
I guess laughter is the best medicine. It's so sad.
What else can you do?
You better laugh because otherwise you'd be crying.
Well, this ain't fixable if it's coming. Dan, it's not fixable if it's coming from the top. Period. It doesn't matter how good Pettine is. Doesn't matter if we like this guy, that guy, if the players are good. If this is the case, it's unfixable.
Yeah, when it's the owner that's your problem, you got a real problem. You can fire people, but you can't fire the owner. It's that's what makes it so disheartening, because we thought we were getting a guy who came from a Steeler organization that knew how to do things right and wanted stability and wanted to said all the right things. But the telling quote in the whole thing is that one of their sources said, he's way too hands-on. He's like Jerry Jones, except without the football knowledge.
Yeah, think about it. At least, well, that's scary right there, just that sentence. Yeah. But I was going to back you up by saying at least eventually Jerry Jones started to be less Jerry Jones in the last few years. He has at least learned from a few of his mistakes. I'm not saying he's doing a great job, but he has done a better job than he did a few years ago, because he's slowly, I think, learning from his own mistakes. But it took him, 15? How long did it take him to get out of his own way? So if that's the case, we've got a long way to go before somebody tells Jimmy Haslam to get out of his own way.
Yeah, well, you know how some of these things, and this article is a good example. We'll see how long this takes to sort of percolate its way into the common, mass media, before people like, Jimmy Donovan are talking about it on Channel 3. It usually takes 2 or 3 days.
Jimmy will never talk about it.
We'll see an article when the minute it hits the internet, and then it takes a couple of days normally for things like this to work their way into the general public consciousness. And I would say by the end of the week, you'll have Brown season ticket holders screaming bloody murder and tearing their checks in half that they were about to send in for next year's tickets. And I think this thing is going to reverberate around town here for the next several days. And we've just heard the beginning of this, Jerry, I suspect.
This thing just broke in the last 2 hours. And I'll tell you what, I expect, talking about by the end of the week, by the time we come back tomorrow, I expect to have an email in my inbox from the Cleveland Browns saying we are aware of these ridiculous stories and they're absolutely not true, because the Browns jump in front of these quickly. I don't understand why teams do that sometimes, but I have no doubt that this will bother them all day, and they'll have to set the record straight sometime in the next day or two here, because they know. This is. Thank you very much for showing me this, Dan, as we get rolling. So there you go. Oh man,
Well, I don't want to be depressed all by myself, Jerry. I figured I'd pass it along and get you all upset too. Hey, but we got something good to talk about, though, Jerry. I mean, the Buckeyes. How about the Buckeyes recruiting class this morning?
We do. I do want to stop you. I do got to stay on the bad side for just a second, because I don't know, while you're updating me on stuff, is there any updates to the Danny Salazar story that has come out here this morning? As you heard it,
I have not heard anything. In fact, I went scrambling when I heard you mention at the top of the show, and just looked at it, and I haven't seen anything beyond what you said. It just there's an acknowledgement of an investigation, and really that's about it. I haven't heard nothing further on that.
The only thing that I do say leads me to believe this is definitely something that it may continue here is the fact that the Indians immediately answered with a statement. It wasn't much of a statement, but I think had it been more frivolous, they may have not bothered to involve themselves in a statement this early. The fact that they, boom, nipped it in the bud right away lets you know that there's at least some investigating of something here. And regardless of what, you can't even speculate on what or whatever, but I do know that no matter what, at best, for Salazar, it's a case of not being in a situation you shouldn't have put yourself in, because I do know that he's got a family and all of that stuff. So if anything, it's at least a situation of perhaps not being somewhere that you shouldn't have been or something like that. And, so whatever. But, you hate to hear that. Here we are. We're supposed to be talking about packing up the trucks, and now here's the first distraction before you even hit spring training. And it could be even more than just a distraction.
Yeah, it's true, and like you say, hopefully we'll learn more as we go along, and probably not worthwhile to do a whole lot more speculating about it, other than maybe to point out that there's another Indians player involved, and Roberto Perez was presumably there as well, and that he was mentioned in the article as well as being at the very least present, if not involved.
Yeah, so, and there was one too, and I mentioned that. That's the trick of we've talked about the modern media. Hoynesy, he's the beat writer for the Plain Dealer for the Indians, and Paul Hoynes tweeted that right away, then followed it up immediately with a correction of his initial tweet that Roberto Perez is not in the complaint, but obviously the name is in there, like you said, for at least being part of whatever the situation may be, at least being present there. But I always hate that, because you can't undo what's done. And
that's right. I mean? Yeah, like I can't remember who it was who said, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
After something like this happens, it's forever. Like you say, Google is forever, and right or wrong or involved or no, his name is associated with this incident now forever, and that's a shame, because it's all unconfirmed stuff.
And you I looked at the Colin Kaepernick thing at the beginning of the football season. Remember all the talk there? For a couple of days, people threw his name around in the mud. Turned out he put himself in a situation that, he probably will avoid in the future. But other than that, he had not done anything close to what had been falsely reported because people jump the gun. That's the danger with the good side that comes with Twitter. That's the danger that comes with it as well, So we'll see. No reason to, as you said, no reason to speculate or go into more. But obviously, as soon as we find out something, we'll be talking about it with you guys. And, the beat goes on for everybody. DeQuell Jackson. Did you hear about DeQuell? Former Browns player.
I have not heard anything about that.
Everybody's getting arrested this week, man. Everybody is getting – it's like the world is pulling a raid on athletes this week or something. But DeQuell Jackson, I don't know all the details, but he got into an argument with a pizza delivery guy over a parking spot and apparently threw some blows and hit this guy a couple times. He's accused of punching the guy in the head a couple of times, and so now he is going to have assault charges here. He's potentially facing the new personal conduct policy as well. But DeQuell Jackson arrested for punching a pizza delivery guy twice in the head, arguing over a parking spot. DeQuell, come on, you're an NFL player. Let the guy have the parking spot, man. I love DeQuell Jackson too, man. Like.
I had not heard anything about that, and
why is everybody? It's been a crazy week.
I'm
Warren
thinking
Sapp can't go to the Super Bowl.
What is the pizza guy thinking about? Is what I'm thinking.
Seriously, look at DeQuell Jackson.
Did you see DeQuell Jackson? Did you see the arms on the guy?
He's an NFL linebacker, and you're going to get up and start an argument with this guy over a parking spot.
Obviously we don't know what happened. The kid maybe never had a chance, but who knows? Find out more later.
But yeah, man, just like this morning, I'm getting ready for the show, and literally I have guys look out for me. They'll send me messages when a story breaks or something, just in case I hadn't heard about it. So I'm getting stuff ready and I'm getting all the logs together. And one thing, hey, did you hear about this? Hey, did you hear about that? And I had already heard about a bunch of the other ones, and it's been like that all week. Warren Sapp over the weekend couldn't just enjoy the Super Bowl, man, and just man, guys, tell you, man, the off season. It's not the off season for athletes, apparently, man. It's the danger zone out there, bro. You gotta be careful, man. But let's do this. Let's go find somewhere good to go in this muck of avarice that we're hanging in here with the bad athletes. But you're right, signing day for the Buckeyes. We've talked along. We kind of talked about some of these guys that have been committing as we go, but fill us in. Obviously, I haven't kept up with the live as everybody's doing their things here, but what's the latest? Obviously, a big day, a good day for Buckeye football.
Yeah, it really was, and we were coming into today with about 4 or 5 guys up in the air. There were 2 real big-time commits for Ohio State that Urban thought might get away. He said it was a long night last night because he wasn't sure about 5 guys. 2 of them were guys that he had already gotten commitments from. One, of course, was Torrance Gibson, who this super fast, big-time left-handed quarterback from Plantation, Florida, who is one of the top athletes in the draft. Some schools are recruiting him as a wide receiver. He committed to Ohio State a couple months ago because he said Urban was going to give him a shot to play quarterback. Well, everybody knew, including the people that were recruiting against the Buckeyes, that if they've got a bunch of anything, it's quarterbacks, okay? And they've got a pretty stacked depth chart at QB. And so the LSU and Auburn were the 2 schools that were really leaning on him hard, trying to show him a quicker path to playing time with them than he would have in Columbus. But he stuck with the Buckeyes, and he committed to them this morning, and he believes that he'll have an opportunity. So that's a big-time move just to hold on to that guy and keep him from getting flipped. The other guy was Mike Weber, the really tough running back from Cass Tech in Detroit, who originally committed to Michigan, decommitted when Hoke fiasco happened and he got fired, committed to Ohio State about a month or so ago, and ever since then it's been trying desperately to hold on to him because Harbaugh was putting a serious lean on him since he was named coach. This kid had a fiasco of a signing announcement this morning. He originally scheduled it for 10 o'clock. People had him flipping to Michigan last night. Even all the Ohio State guys were pretty convinced he was going to go to Michigan. The home state leaning on him hard. He holds a press conference, announces it at 10 o'clock. Everybody's there. He puts it off then until 10:30. About 10:25, all the media reports, including some big-time guys that know what they're doing, Mike Farrell and other people, started announcing, before he announced it publicly, that he was going to sign with Ohio State and stick with the Buckeyes. Well, then he shows up at 10:30 for his press conference and tells the assembled media, well, if I'm waiting for my parents before I make my announcement, and by the way, I haven't made my mind up yet. Okay, so that was another flurry of Twitter activity. Media starting to get a little bit impatient with the kid. Now, come on, it's drama queen, all kinds of talk like that. Well, he finally, almost 11 o'clock, finally steps up to the podium and announces that he's going to be a Buckeye. He's going to stick with his Ohio State commitment. So those were the two big ones that they hung on to. Then also this morning got a kind of a surprise announcement from the nation's number 4 ranked offensive tackle, a kid named Isaiah Prince out of Maryland, number 1 player in the state of Maryland, number 1 tackle in the East, announced for the Buckeyes. A big time get for Urban. Also flipped KJ Hill, a big wide receiver who had been previously committed to Auburn, who announced for the Buckeyes this morning too. So those were the big ones. They ended up signing 27 kids and have, I think, right now about the 5th ranked class nationally. Yeah, so a big morning for Urban, and he got all the big ones. There was a kid from Utah that ended up committing yesterday to USC that he was pulling for, and hosted last weekend. But basically got about 5 out of the last 6 big time recruits that were up in the air, and basically just a super day for Buckeye land.
Yeah, that's the consensus around, is various wherever you want to put them there. But, yeah, easily a top 5 day here for them. And I'll tell you got to remind people, when people lose their minds about their recruiting and signing day and all of that stuff, you got to always throw out the stat here from this past Super Bowl. Not one 5-star recruit among the 22 starters in this year's Super Bowl. So, it's not who you sign with on signing day. It's what you do with your career after that determines things. You brought up Michigan, and I wanted to ask you because, the late dynamic in that with Harbaugh going there and stuff, I have no clue. Maybe you don't either, but you've been able to watch more than I have today. Did that, in the last little bit here, affect anything positively for Michigan? Did they improve their rankings, snatch a few guys? Was Harbaugh able to come in and do a few things? Did it change their recruiting day here at all?
It did, but only a little. And it did, really, the Michigan people are dumbfounded that he didn't do more. This trying to flip Mike Weber, let's this was not a kid from Kansas City that Ohio State and Michigan were fighting over. It was a kid from Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And he came in late, and admittedly he had been committed once and then decommitted, and so trying to get him to flip back, obviously pulling on the home state strings there. The fact that he lost that battle, people are already saying Harbaugh's 0-1 against Urban Meyer. But other recruits, they had, I think, when he took the job, they had, I think, only 6 or 7 commits, where the Buckeyes are sitting at around 23. Most schools already had their classes mostly filled up. That's another reason that waiting so long to get Harbaugh really hurt them this year in recruiting. They ended up with about 12 commits. They ended up ranked, I think, about 47th in the nation, is what I heard just a few minutes ago, well behind, several other Big Ten schools. Normally it's Ohio State 1 and 2. Penn State was probably in the top 10 or 15 this year. They had a real good year. But Michigan, to be out of the top 30, even out of the top 40, is pretty tragic, really, from the standpoint of what that program does year to year. So he helped them with a couple of late signings, but nobody huge, nobody, big time, no 5 stars, couple of 4 stars that he was able to snag at the end. He lost one of the top tight end in the country. Chris Clark was previously committed to Michigan. He's a kid that Ohio State offered. Everybody offered this kid. He's a big time player. They were still hoping for him this morning, and he signed with UCLA this morning. So that's another one that got away, and the Michigan people they thought Harbaugh would have a bigger splash impact effect in the last few weeks of recruiting, but recruiting is done over a period of over years, not just months. You're talking to these kids when they're sophomores in high school, and Harbaugh might be charismatic, and he might be go get them and come to Michigan and win with me, but you can't overcome years and years of relationship building that coaches and coaching staffs do over time You can't undo that in about 3 weeks.
Oh, $40 million didn't get you what you... No, I know. I'm with you. People thinking you can work miracles, man. I mean, we'll see. I'm sure, obviously, that'll be different with more time to go. But I was just curious about that because I hadn't... Obviously, so many things happening live here. I haven't been able to even keep up. Like, I couldn't even keep my signing day screen as it was active going because every time it would update, it wanted to lock up the 50 other windows that I had open on the page. So I'm like, well, I'm going to have to close this, and I'm going to have to ask Dan Wismar to lead me through this one here when we get here because I don't have the slightest clue who signed at what time and all of that stuff. I could just see the feedback on Twitter as we were going. So, hey.
Well, one of the things I was going to say, one of the things that Meyer definitely did this year is kind of reverse the last few years. They've had some down years in terms of offensive line recruiting. Well, that is over. Urban Meyer signed 6 offensive linemen today, 4 tackles and 2 guards. They're all highly recruited. He's going for the 6'7", 295 rangy tackles with good feet. I mean, he pulled a couple kids that were 3-stars that they have just looked into, a kid named Grant Schmidt out of South Dakota, kid named Brandon Bowen out of Utah, where they kind of went into some areas where they haven't gone before, and they're specifically looking for a certain type of kid, 6'7", 6'8", lean, long, quick. They know what they want in their offensive tackles, and they went out specifically and got those kids. This Isaiah Prince that they got at the last minute here, he's 6'6.5", 290. He fits the bill. Long arms, rangy kid. So they know what they want. They're going after it, and they got a couple of big bruiser guards that are nationally ranked kids too. So the cupboard is now well stacked with offensive linemen. They also had a real good class last year. So Myers put 2 good O-line classes back to back, and any concerns about that area being thin are gone. So that much is for sure.
The cover's not anywhere near bare. The rich get richer here. Buckeyes continue to add on to what was already a strong recruiting class here. Talking Buckeyes as well on the other side of things, on the basketball side, man. How about the it's taken a while here. We've seen the Buckeyes, the rise of D'Angelo Russell here, and what is quickly becoming a one and done. I mentioned it the other bit anyway, but I saw a great breakdown was in the Plain Dealer, but about how D'Angelo Russell has screwed up the Buckeyes timetable here because they were figuring, he's going to be out relatively quickly, but probably 2 years and get a strong sophomore season out of him with the championship run with some recruits that are coming in, and this team will be ready. But he has quickly outplayed that timetable to where he's now not only people are saying, hey, man, he's going in the lottery. This is a guy who's being projected as high as the top 2 or 3 picks in the NBA draft if he was to choose to come out so early. I don't think there's any doubt. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any doubt he's going to be one and done. What do you think about that as we watch him continue to each game just continue to develop quicker and quicker?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it certainly looks like there would have to be some serious circumstances, Ohio State co-ed or something, and can't bear to leave. But let's hope that happens. The only thing that could save us now is a woman. But no, I think he's going to be one and done. People have been talking lottery with him now for a few things about which team might be fortunate enough to draft D'Angelo Russell in the. Yeah, he can be a millionaire if he wants to be. So very little hope of the Buckeyes hanging on to him. He just, like you said, and it's not just the scoring. He's a good defender. He's an excellent passer. Sees the floor very well. I don't know what the NBA scouts will say about him on the defensive side. Hard to say yet whether we even know enough yet about that. But he's such a versatile offensive player, ball handler, ball distributor, that he could probably play either the 1 or the 2 at the NBA. He's 6'2", too small to be a 2 in the NBA, and he certainly can shoot the ball well enough to be a 2 in the NBA. So. But you probably would see him as a point because he's such a good distributor of the ball that has such good vision on the court. So, yeah, and the Buckeyes are playing better and better with him. Mark Loving's starting to come into his own a little bit, and as a scorer, they've got a little bit of a run going. They have Purdue tonight at Purdue, and they're both tied for, I think, 4th place, or the real bunched up behind Wisconsin right now in the Big Ten. several teams, almost half a dozen teams that are right there, after Wisconsin and fighting for the top couple seeds after the Badgers. Badgers got a full 2-game lead on everybody else. They only have one conference loss. Everybody else has 3 or more. So this was a big game tonight with Purdue, and if they can survive that, then they get Rutgers at home on the 8th on Sunday, and then next week they've got Penn State at home. So they can get by Purdue today. They got a couple home games, winnable home games, and could really put a good streak together.
For sure. Russell, by the way, picking it up, we talk about it, the last 5 games, he's averaging almost 25 points a game, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, really picking it up. That's why people are quickly going, wait a minute, he's literally getting better with every game here, man. This kid is, whew. But how about, talking about the win streak here, that one last week, 24 points on over Maryland. I mean, were you surprised by how big they won that one? I was, for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised because Maryland, I think they came into the game ranked 16th. And, Buckeyes had only beaten one ranked team all season when they I can't remember who that was, knocking off, Indiana or somebody.
Indiana was the game before that. Yeah, they've knocked off the Indiana number 22 and then followed that up with number 16 Maryland.
Yeah, and then now the Buckeyes are up. I saw the other day. I think they're ranked 20th now, coming off this hot streak. But they really just pulled away. They had a little bit of a lead there, and really sort of dominated that game start to finish. I don't think they ever really trailed after the very early going, and then just to win going away like that against really a pretty solid Maryland ball club was their most impressive win, I think, of the season, and gave them a lot of confidence, I think. And one thing that Mata's been doing, he started out, and Mata has always been traditionally a man-to-man guy. Well, this year he's been playing zone defense, and they've struggled a little bit with it. We talked early in the season about that, but he's gone back to man. They played man against Maryland, and they just beat them up. They're physical, they're very, very athletic, and the man-to-man takes advantage of that athleticism a little bit better, and they've had good success with it the last couple of games. So I think maybe you'll see a lot more man down the stretch because so far so good. They've had real good luck with it the last couple games.
And after that tough week where they lost 2 out of 3 games, knocked themselves out of the top 25, beginning to put themselves together, as we just said, a couple of good victories. You've got Purdue here, both teams 6-3 in the Big Ten. Ohio State hasn't really played a ton of road games. I think they're 2-3 on the road. They're like 15-1 at home, I believe, this season, but haven't played a ton of road games here. But yeah, Purdue, 6:30 is the tip-off on that one here tonight. For those of you guys watching it, I have no clue if there's television coverage on that one or not. But if there is, you'll find it. You don't need me to be your TV guide. But it'll be a lot of fun to see. And as we're getting closer here, this month of February, I want to see that squad because they've been inconsistent. I mean, you look at a couple of weeks ago, that dip there. And that's the thing is, as Russell grows, and you brought it up there, the team getting better around him as well, it'll be interesting to see. That's what I love about college basketball. The evolution of a team from the beginning of the season to tournament time is just amazing. How few teams are what they were expected to be in the preseason by the time you get to the tournament. Very rarely. I mean, you get your couple. Obviously Kentucky. You know what I mean? Your Virginias, your teams that have been up there. But, I think Ohio State is one of them teams that is going to continue to grow together, and they'll be much stronger than they were at the beginning part of the season, just in time for tournament time, which is what you want. That's where you want your team to be.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that Mata has done here in the last few games, people have been screaming and whining and kind of bitching about Amir Williams for 3 years now. Bad hands, and he's not a force in the middle. He doesn't finish at the rim, and as a 5, it's really been the weak spot on this Buckeye team ever since Amir Williams, who was a McDonald's All-American coming in, but just has really never lived up to that in terms of becoming it. Mata, a couple games ago, sat him down. Didn't even play tape. Is basically a 6'4" kid who's just burly and big, barrel-chested, and he's just a worker hustler. He's been playing him in the middle, and he's a guy who's just going to outwork you most of the time, and he's been getting rebounds. He's been posting up in the middle against bigger people, scoring, rebounding, hustling for loose balls, and he's helped. They've gone with a smaller lineup, and it's been working. Now, Amir Williams was back in the lineup the other day. It all depends on what the matchup is, of course, with the opponent. But Williams has been on the floor less. Jayshawn Tate has been on the floor more. And that formula has been working for him. So that'll be interesting to see, too, down the stretch. If senior center, the experience there, or if he goes with the freshman Tate, who has been just a ball of fire in there just in terms of effort and hustle and being a gamer.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. Dan Wismar joining us here. We've been kind of talking about the gamut of things here. We had the Buckeyes basketball team, Buckeyes signing day. Talked a little bit about a lot of things here, and that's one of the fun things there. You know what? I just saw that. Quickly before I let you go, I wasn't even going to mention this, but I saw during the break earlier, and then Bruce just reminded me in the chat room there about Dick LeBeau going to Tennessee. That kind of, I'll tell you, we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago. I threw that out there as one of the teams looking for somebody, but I didn't think there was a chance because I didn't think he wanted to go anywhere far away. But I'll tell you, Dick LeBeau decided. Everybody thought maybe, well, he's an old guy, man. His time is up, but he's still going to be coaching. I'm curious to see, man, if he can take, because the Titans got some pieces over there, man. And Ray, it's like Ray Horton. He started putting it together. Somebody else stepped in here and moved his pieces around. That may be a similar situation there. Dick LeBeau may be able to turn that Titans into a defense over there.
I had not heard that, Jerry. That's interesting. Like we said, Dick LeBeau, he's 77. He can do whatever he darn well wants to do at this point in his career. And apparently he's not ready to hang up the clipboard just yet. Is he defensive coordinator for them?
You know what? I don't have the actual what the position is. Is he the? I can look it up here.
I'm assuming he's not going to take a demotion.
Right. Well,
at
I
this
thought
stage
maybe
in his career, so I'd have to. Maybe he's just a staff consultant or something. Who knows? But I had not heard that.
Well, that's what it could be. No, he has been officially titled the associate head coach in charge of defense. It appears as I'm pulling this. Let me make sure I'm right about that. Let's see. Yeah, Dick LeBeau. Yeah, it's in effect the defensive coordinator. Yeah, he has been hired.
And they may have even had to give him that associate head coach title because he had a job as a defensive coordinator before.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like he had resigned or quote unquote retired, I guess, rather from the Steelers, did he not? So it's not as though they were trying to recruit a guy with a job in order to have to give him a bigger title in order to get him away. But
no, it's not just that. Let me jump in. It's not just that. Ray Horton is not going to be replaced. Ray Horton is still the defensive coordinator. That's why they're going to give Dick. So technically, maybe Ray Horton now maybe that was a ego thing because we don't want to fire Ray. We just want to add Dick LeBeau to what we got. But technically, we got to give him a job title in here somewhere. But that makes sense there. So that's why he is the associate head coach in charge of defense. But there will also be Ray Horton, the defensive coordinator. So there you go.
Yeah, well, it goes without saying their coaching staff just got better. Let's put it that way.
Sure did. Absolutely. Think about it, man. You got Ken Wisenhunt over there now. You got Ray Horton, who I appreciate some of the things he does. And he does a 3-4-2. Put him and LeBeau together there. Man, the Titans could be about to turn the corner on things over there as well, too,
Yeah, that sounds good. I got a lot of respect for LeBeau. And, a lot of people don't even know he was a Buckeye way back when.
Way back when. Absolutely, man. Dan Wismar, man. Great conversation here again today. And you know what? By the time we talk again, by the way, only one more week. We got to get through one more week. But by the time we talk again, equipment will already be down there. Friday, the truck's coming, packing it up, taking it down to Arizona. Man, I cannot wait. I can feel the sun already beginning.
Well, I've been watching Indians Rewind. In fact, last night the walk-off balk was on.
Yes,
and I was taking that in because it's the only baseball I could find on television. But what can I say? I'm hungry. I'm ready to go.
They picked a great night. They knew the Cavs were off. They knew the Vikings weren't playing. Everybody was off on TV in the area. So, boom. Matter of fact, I didn't even know it. I flipping through and I said, "Hey, Indians baseball! I feel warmer already." And it was the walk-off game last night. So you gotta love it. You start watching those games here, getting yourself into the mood. The other day, they had a bunch of maybe 2 weeks ago, and I don't know, I lose track of time, but a bunch of the alumni roundtables from over the years that Bobby D hosts, and it was with the 95 Indians, and it was a bunch of the guys that that one was one, but then I watched the one with the 80s guys. Corey Snyder, who else was in there? I think maybe Buddy Black. No, not him. John. One of the other pitchers there in that rotation. Swindell might have been in it. Anyways, it was cool. I can't remember everybody, but I know Tabler was there. Brooke Jacoby was there. Corey Snyder was there. It was cool. I like those. I'm definitely getting that Indians fever biting, man. Can't
anything we can do to get us through these a few tough weeks of February.
That's it.
Just to get us over the hump there into Arizona. So
that's it, man.
We do an MLB channel every night just to see if anything's breaking. And every night they're talking about James Shields. He's getting to February, still hasn't signed with anybody.
Yep.
So that's the big domino that still has to fall here in the free agent world.
You never know, man. Any day now, the Dolan, hey man, somebody might wake up and decide, hey, I want to sign James Shield. I'm just saying, until he signs somewhere else, he's free agent. No, I'm just kidding, man.
That's it.
You're right. No,
All
there
right,
are some guys still hanging out there.
We'll catch up to you on Monday, Jerry.
You got it, Dan. You have a good one. We will talk on Monday, my friend.
Thank you, J-Rocc. See you later.
You got it. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, and he's here every Monday and Wednesday next week. Well, man, that's it, man. Baseball coming around. As you guys know, man, all sports, hit it with me, brother. So we're at that time where we're close enough for one to start that you just let's do it. Minds forward, man. One more week to go. This Monday will be the final Monday edition of the Sports Fix before baseball exists in some form or fashion, even though the first couple weeks of spring training are a little bit slow too. Everybody circles that date. Pitchers and catchers report, like, for the first couple of days, we're weighing each other, we're taking selfies together, we're getting our lockers lined up, we're maybe taking a couple of grounders. It's a minute before they get to playing, but then it starts moving quickly. So can't wait, man. Can't wait to, you know what? Can't wait to do a lot of things, baby. Can't wait to get this last break out of the way. You like that? Come back and wrap this thing up tonight. I can't wait. Speaking of the Buckeyes, they've got Purdue. Vikings, they had a couple of days off after their biggest victory of the season over Green Bay the other day. They're back in action tonight. Also, a couple of other things I wanted to talk about when we come back. Mentioned it at the beginning of the show. Yesterday, you see, I'm the bad luck. I spent how long talking about UFC yesterday, and come home from my game last night to the news that both of the main eventers, Anderson Silva, man, that's Barry Bonds testing positive for steroids right there. That's one of your selling points. All of a sudden, man, that story went from being fantastically awesome to just fantastic, but not in the good way at all. We'll talk about that. Norris Cole, maybe, speaking of the Vikings, coming back to Cleveland. We'll hit on all of that, set the stage for tomorrow, and so much more. We've got a lot to come. Don't go anywhere. Final break. We'll be right back with more Sports Fix.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good,
It
though.
could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was
Get
terrible.
him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Yard signs, mobile advertising, your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania. It's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com. No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD, the excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials. Fight fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens. And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger. Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious. What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
Hey, everybody. Listen up.
Listen up, guys.
Hey, guys. Listen up.
No one should ever hit a woman.
Not their wife, not their girlfriend, not their date. No woman should have to fear violence.
Especially not from someone they know and trust.
But that's the reality for too many women.
We have to change it.
It's up to each of us, because even one is too many.
Violence against women hurts all of us. Growing up, I was ashamed and afraid of my father when he abused my mom.
The worst abuse of power, women. We all have to take responsibility. Women, step up, speak out, and get help.
Dating violence hurts all of us. So step up and help end it. Because one is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
End the violence. Because it's wrong.
Because one is too many.
Hey, you guys are rocking with Reggie Germany, former wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills and Ohio State Buckeye. You're rocking with the Sports Fix.
Howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner. Welcome back to the Sports Fix. Final segment here, wrapping things up across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you. What a show it's been today. Thanks to Ernest, Byner, EB21 for joining us earlier on the show. Legendary Browns running back. That was definitely our pleasure and our honor to have Ernest on the show. Nearly an hour and 20 minutes. If you didn't hear it, go back and listen. And if you enjoyed it, share it with somebody else. Let's get that one out there. That was a really good one as well. Thanks to Dan Wismar, who you just heard, for joining us as well. Tomorrow, looking at people joining us, we've got Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. We'll see if anything comes out in the next 24 hours about any situations involving Danny Salazar or anybody else on the Indians. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the latest things with Mike Brandenberry. Doug Plagans, voice of the Lake Erie Monsters, will be in the house with us tomorrow to talk about the latest week that was for Monsters hockey. The back-to-back games, overtime with Oklahoma City over the weekend, grabbing 3 out of 4 points there. Monsters last night wrapped up a successful 3-game road trip here with a 3-2 shootout victory over Milwaukee. Now a couple of days off for the Monsters before they get back at it. On Friday, they've got Toronto coming to the Q back-to-back with Hamilton as well. We'll talk to Doug Plagans about all of that as Monsters grab some points, continue to chop their way back up the playoff rankings and the standings in the conference. Doug Plagens here tomorrow. Mike Brandenberry here from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com as well. Still trying to catch up with John McMullen on his way back earlier this week from the Super Bowl. He may as well also be able to stop with us tomorrow. So we'll see about that. We've got Eddie Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland joining us on Friday to talk some Cavaliers hoops. Jonathan Knight, Jeff Gorman. We've got the loaded slate here the rest of the week coming up. Can't wait. Looking at things I can't wait. Speaking of getting back to previewing tonight, you got the Ohio State Buckeyes in Purdue. If you're into college hoops as well, you've also got Cleveland State as the Vikings host Youngstown State tonight, 7 p.m. Tip-off on that one. It's on TV. It's on Watch ESPN on that app. It's on the ESPN3 feed as well. 7 p.m. tip from the Wolstein Center. It'll be on the radio on my old stomping grounds over there on WHK. Vikes come in, winners of 4 of 5. They're 13-10 overall, 7-2 in first place, tie in the Horizon League, coming off what I think is their biggest win of the season. They knocked off Green Bay 76-62 over the weekend. Youngstown State comes in 10-15 overall. The Penguins are just 1-9 in last place in the Horizon League. They're coming in losing their last game 93-87 at home to Oakland. The series deep with these guys. CSU just on top, 43-39 overall. Youngstown State is the most played opponent in CSU Vikings history. 81 games the two schools have played. That is the most that any opponent has played against the Vikings. Of course, they met earlier this year. Vikings won that one on the road in Youngstown, up in Penguin territory, 74-61. Also, looking at a couple of things, I saw some quotes from Coach Gary Waters here, and he said, hey, we are not in any position to look past the Penguins here tonight. They've been consistent in every game they play. They don't quit, and they're offensive-minded. You've got to stop them, and if you don't, you're going to have to score a whole lot of points to beat them. So he is right about that. Vikings need to go out there. And something else, I don't think it'll be for tonight's game, but I noticed as well, Marlon Mason closer to being cleared for action. He's been out for quite a while. The flu has really knocked him down. He's had a bad viral infection. It's more than just the flu, and he's lost over 15 pounds since he came out of the rotation there. But he appears to be getting his strength back and maybe back into play here for the Vikings very soon. Vikings tonight, Youngstown State, Ohio State's got Purdue. Both of those games taking some basketball center stage as the Cavaliers have another day off before they get back into action tomorrow, and we'll be previewing that. A couple of other things I wanted to talk. You know what I mentioned earlier? These stories keep coming. During the break, another one pops up on my news alerts about these NFL. I mean, I'll tell you, NFL's already got. They need to stop investigating underblown and overblown footballs because they got all kinds of investigations to deal with now. Not only some individual stuff. We mentioned DeQuell Jackson earlier here. We talked about, even though he's not an active NFL player, mentioned Warren Sapp getting nailed earlier this week. You had Josh Gordon gets himself suspended. One thing after another. Johnny Manziel's in rehab. I mean, say what you want. He's a high name in the NFL publicity, and he's coming right off the Super Bowl. All the eyes on the league and all these things happening. You got a star quarterback who puts himself into rehab. Here you got the guy from the Dallas Cowboys, Joseph Randle. Remember, he's the guy that was caught a couple of months ago shoplifting from the store, trying to take underwear and some Gucci cologne. He was caught shoplifting, if you guys remember. Then he was talking trash during the booking, and when he was caught on videotape talking, bringing up Des Bryant and his situation and Josh Brent and that accident down there, and all kinds of stuff about that and all of that. Well, he's been arrested again. He was nailed, I guess, pulled over in the middle of the night last night for possession of marijuana. Of course, it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not just a matter of that. He was pulled out of his hotel room, domestic violence call. He's got a weapon. They found Randall and a 22-year-old unnamed woman at the hotel. There was marijuana openly out in the room. So he's not only got the pot charges, but they're investigating domestic violence as well. Yeah, this guy's got a bright future ahead of him in the NFL. I am sorry. I'm all about giving guys opportunity to fix themselves, and I want them to fix themselves. But, man, you've blown your opportunity here in the NFL. I mean, to me, there's not, you give a guy a second chance, you even give a guy a third chance, man, but there comes a point where you just don't You don't get to do that anymore. You just don't get to make millions of dollars to play football anymore. You can still live a very successful life. You're just not going to be a football player anymore, man. And I mean, but whatever. Easy for me to sit here and easy for guys to point at me and go, oh, well, you don't know what they go through. Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. People act like people don't understand something because a guy's on TV or I've been on TV too. Millions of people have watched me do what I do too. I mean, I'm just saying. It's one thing to tell me I don't understand what Johnny Manziel's going through. Don't tell me that I don't understand what a practice squad NFL guy goes through, because last week he was working at Foot Locker. As far as I'm concerned, he's not all that much different from where I'm at right now. But anyways, what's wrong with these cats, man? I mean, again, but they'll wag their finger at you, and they'll give you 15 excuses and tell you why you should be glad that they just got out of the ghetto and that they're not part of a gang. You should be happy for that and just let them live their life, I guess, even though there's tons of people who don't use any of that as excuses. The Packers, defensive tackle, backup defensive tackle for them, Leroy Guyan, I believe. I have no clue how you pronounce his last name. He was arrested for felony possession of marijuana and firearms. Police found 357. This is Nate Newton stuff right here. Nate Newton, remember, was driving across the freaking country with weed and bales of the stuff, man. He got in all kinds of stuff back in the late 90s there. But Leroy Guyan found to have 357 grams of pot in his truck when he was pulled over. Also, nearly $200,000 in cash was found in one of the bags with the marijuana. So police confiscated the 357 grams of pot, the $190,000 in cash. Man, again, just what world do they live in? According to the police report, he was also extremely uncooperative and hostile while they searched the vehicle. He also yelled at the officers not to let anybody take his money. His money was in there. Don't let them take his money. He went from a backup to a starter last season with the Packers and had a season high for himself, 3.5 sacks last year. Signed a 1-year, $1 million contract. Apparently, we know where some of that $1 million went, because $190,000 of it was found in the backseat of this truck, along with 400 grams of marijuana. So some people invest in stocks and bonds, and some people invest in other things, apparently. I don't know, whatever, man. But says the Packers were negotiating a long-term contract with him. I highly doubt those negotiations will continue in earnest after this latest thing. But there's another one popping out there, and I mean, it's just one after another, one black eye after another. And speaking of circling back real quick, we mentioned earlier the news breaking about Ray Farmer. More details that I've gotten during the break here. This is a very serious deal here. It is Dow Logans, who Farmer is accused of texting during games about why the quarterback change had not been made, why certain players were on the field during certain plays, and the direct second guessing of actual play calls. And that's a bad thing. I'm sorry, man, but more and more, as much as, listen, Ray Farmer may be able to find offensive linemen in the second, third round of the draft. He may be able to find a diamond in the rough in the undrafted free agents. But that doesn't change the fact that we're hearing one thing after another that says at the end of the day, even if you believe it to be wrong, you're more interested in protecting your job with your boss than doing your job, and that's what they all do. That's what they all do here in not just Cleveland, but in bad teams. When you end up with a team full of yes men, that's what you get. And Ray Farmer is proving himself to me. While he may be decent at talent evaluation, he also is a complete yes man here and has no ability to stand on his own with what he believes. Clearly, this is what all of this is pointing out here, and I don't know how Ray Farmer is going to have a job if he ends up. How do you maintain your job if you end up suspended? And what I'm hearing now is this is a multiple game thing that he's facing. There may be a multi-game suspension out of this, the franchise being hit with the loss of draft picks and a 6-figure fine. Combine that with being a general manager who blew both of your first-round picks the previous season, dealt with the circus around Johnny Manziel all season long, and, again, is going to be suspended and potentially other ramifications for directly involving himself in things during... Now, then again, you might say, hey, he's a yes man, so Jimmy Haslam's not going to get rid of him. But I got to tell you, that to me is a complete... That's why you get... That's... Hey, why would you fire him? Right there. Do I need to give you another reason? Unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you fire him, because if he's only living at the whims of the guy named Jimmy Haslam, he's just going to replace him with another guy who'll just live at the whims of Jimmy Haslam until he gets fired. Because the only person that can't get fired is the guy pulling all the strings on the puppet show. And that is, of course, Jimmy Haslam. So, I mean, it is what it is, and it's disheartening as hell. Like Dan and I were saying earlier, disheartening is not even the word to start with that. We'll see as more of that comes out. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but that's now 4 active investigations the NFL has going on against the Browns, against the Falcons for piping in fake crowd noise, against the Patriots for the deflate thing, and against the Jets for tampering with Darrelle Revis. So, good days for the NFL here this week, coming off their best Super Bowl in quite some time. We're coming off our best show in quite some time. A great interview with the great Ernest Byner to start things off, and that's where we're going to end it, guys. You guys have a great day. We'll talk more tomorrow. I'll talk some more about Silva and Diaz and all these other things. We got a lot of time to get into that. Guys, enjoy your evening here. Enjoy some Buckeyes and Vikings hoops. Come on back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, live at noon, right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network and here on the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. We'll see you tomorrow, right here on the Fix.
Monster, this the home of King James. We are not the empire, but this is where the kings play. Cleveland, let's go.
We rep our city. Blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. Red 6 minutes.